with respect to international relations. And the first one that we had started to see was terrorism, right? So we have seen what is meant by terrorism. We have seen what are the causes of terrorism. Okay? We have seen how terrorism has evolved over the recent decades. Now we are going to see what is the impact of terrorism as far as international relations is concerned. Okay? So there are some major global issues which will be a consistent theme when we discuss contemporary international relations. Terrorism is one of them. So today we will complete terrorism, and then we will see globalization, and also after that we try to see environment related aspects. Okay? So ये recurring themes हमारी रहेगी. Typically, if you see, whenever there is a major bilateral visit that takes place, if some foreign dignitary visits India, or for that matter, even if our Prime Minister or the President, he goes abroad, she goes abroad and they have a bilateral visit, then invariably you will see that in the joint statement that comes out, there will be some reference related to terrorism. We will ensure that the other side, to whom we are making such a high-level bilateral visit, is on the same page with us as far as this issue is concerned. So this is a sensitive issue for us. We have suffered more than perhaps any other country in the world, arguably, and naturally we want that sensitivity to be taken on board by our friends. And if you don't have that sensitivity for our problem, then what is the point in fostering good relations with you? Therefore, India's bilateral relations will always involve some sort of understanding about this issue of terrorism as well. Similarly, we will see some other issues too. Now let us see the impact of terrorism as far as IR is concerned. Okay, you see that after 9/11, or rather, let's go before that. Before 9/11, also there were a lot of terrorist attacks that had been done in different parts of the world. India had been suffering for quite some time. So had many other countries. Europe had seen some occasional episodes. Developing world के अंदर में तो बहुत सारे ऐसे insurgencies और ये सारी activities जो है वो चलती रही थी. But USA was not directly impacted as such. USA was always in that cocoon on the other side of Atlantic. It was largely safe from all of these kind of developments. It was also always ahead of the curve when it came to technology, when it came to intelligence, and in many places US itself had indirectly helped many of these terror outfits also. I mean, terrorists, how you define, it's based on how you are looking at that particular entity. So CIA is known to have helped such rogue elements. And therefore, US always felt secure that I have nothing to worry about as far as this issue is concerned. We kept on raising this issue at all international fora, including in UN also. India sponsored, we were the initiators of a convention on international terrorism. हमने दुनिया के सामने ये चीज रखा कि भाई ये प्रॉब्लम है, इसको डिफाइन करना पड़ेगा, इसके लिए स्ट्रक्चर्स बनाने पड़ेंगे, इसके लिए स्टेप्स एंड मेजर्स लेने पड़ेंगे. But nobody was really coming down on it very seriously until Uncle Sam was hurt. Okay, US was attacked 9/11. Okay, it was a major attack. There were multiple plane hijacks that took place, and the planes were rammed into targets. World Trade Center, both the buildings were brought down. Okay? Pentagon was attacked, and one plane was headed towards White House, supposed to be the most protected building in the world. It was because of, it's all speculation, but largely it said it was because of the bravery of people on that plane who brought that down. They understood that in any case we are going to die. Okay, so they resisted the terrorists, and that's how that plane, could not target White House. This is one theory. Of course, there are different opinions, but this is a plausible theory. When this happened, that is when USA was suddenly, awakened, and 9/11 then becomes a dividing line as far as this issue of terrorism is concerned. Okay? USA stood up very strongly on this issue and made this the centerpiece of its foreign policy for next few decades. George Bush का बड़ा famous speech आपने सुना भी होगा उसमें. Standing over there on ground zero just after the attack, few days after the attack, he had said either you are with us, that is on this global war on terror, or you are against us. Okay, that is as strong a language as the US president can openly use. And from that point onwards, USA has galvanized its foreign affairs in such a manner that the issue of terrorism is at the focal point as far as at least USA is concerned. Okay? So IR के अंदर में आप pre and post 9/11 आप एक ऐसा threshold बना सकते हैं. 9/11 से पहले it was not that big a significant issue as such, internationally speaking, but post 9/11, since USA itself is directly affected, directly involved, we see that it becomes a very important issue internationally speaking. Do you understand this point? Okay. So जैसे आज हम देख रहे हैं ना themes like climate change or international trade, globalization, these are major themes in international relations. वैसा ही एक major theme terrorism भी है, और उसका जो origin है वो 9/11 के attack के अंदर है. So this starts a new phase or new era. But materially speaking, अभी तक भी वो convention जो भारत ने sponsor किया था, वो अभी तक sign नहीं हो पाया है. We are still far from it. Countries have not been able to come on a common ground as far as this definition of terrorism is concerned. Something as basic as that also. जो definition हमने भी देखी थी, that is an academic definition. Okay? It is not a definition accepted by some international body. It is more of a scholarly kind of a definition. Okay? So 9/11 is a major dividing line. After this, after 9/11, that is, we saw a new kind of division emerging in the world. Suddenly, the issue of terrorism became the fault line. On one side were the countries who had been hit or who had been affected by terrorism and those who were sympathetic to them. And then there were other countries who were, rogue countries, who on the other hand had some kind of involvement, direct or indirect, in terror-related activities. And the best example of that is Pakistan. Okay, next verse. Pakistan at that time was ruled by General Pervez Musharraf. For last several decades, Pakistan had played this dubious role. It was part of the American pacts, CETO, CENTO, so on and so forth. But at the same time, Pakistan, true to its character, had also been harboring a lot of these terrorist elements. Some of them, even those who were involved in 9/11, their linkages could be traced right down to Pakistan. Osama bin Laden ultimately कहाँ मिला वो? पाकिस्तान ही मिला ना? और भी पाकिस्तान में कहाँ पर मिला है? Is very close to the military headquarters, not far from there. पाकिस्तान जैसे हमारा इंडिया है ना, National Defense Academy, वैसा पाकिस्तान का academy है. That was very close by from the place where Osama bin Laden was spotted. Naturally, this must have been a very high secure kind of an area. At least surveillance would be very high. Yet, a high value target like Osama bin Laden lived there for several months. This shows some natural, kind of involvement of the deep state of Pakistan. Okay? So after 9/11, we are going to see this new division where this team will be a fault line along which countries will, be divided. Okay? This also helped to foster cooperation amongst countries based on this issue. USA suddenly started to empathize with those countries who had been on the receiving end. This is one reason why India and USA started to come close after 9/11 attacks. Just before 9/11, we had the Pokhran blast in 1998, and I've told you how USA had imposed sanctions upon India. Okay. But after 9/11, they realized that what India was saying all the way along was right. Terrorism is a big menace, and it can hurt the most powerful country in the world. Look at this is not to condone, but this is just to tell you how, despite all the technological prowess and economic resources that USA had, how the smallest of idea could be used to attack the biggest of, David, biggest of Goliath by David. America के planes, America का petrol, America का GPS, America के airports, America में ही training लिया था इन सब pilots ने, and they attack America itself. So this is how, these people can think out of the box and make the most powerful of countries also vulnerable. And therefore, this needed more cooperation for like-minded countries. इसलिए 9/11 के बाद में इंटरनेशनल रिलेशंस में हम देखेंगे कि कंट्रीज coalesce together based on issues related to terrorism. We see many new groupings, platforms taking up this issue of terrorism. For example, you will read about something called as the Five Eyes Network in newspapers. What are these Five Eyes? It's an intelligence sharing platform of 5 like-minded countries, which includes USA and its closest friends. It includes UK, it includes Australia, it includes New Zealand, so on and so forth. They're called as Five Eyes, EYER, 5 Eyes. So 5 countries who share their intelligence amongst one another, with one another. Similarly, there is a very important terror-related body called as RATS, R-A-T-S, RATS, which is part of Shanghai Cooperation Organization, SCO. This is a China-led body for cooperation in the area of Central Asia. It includes China, Russia, India, Pakistan, among others. Okay, and all of these, irony से बढ़ के और irony क्या हो सकती है? All of these people are part of this grouping called as this organization called as RATS, which deals with terror-related information sharing, training, so on and so forth. Pakistan is also part of it. Yes, Pakistan has played this game for very long, and it is very adept at this game. Yes.
Sir, you said that because of various terrorist attacks are connected to Pakistan, then why United Nations is not taking any strict action?
Exactly. So as we just discussed, there is no definition of terrorism, there is no convention, there is no treaty as such that is there. That under UN ka aegis, whatever has happened related to terrorism has happened more on plurilateral forums. Okay? And there Pakistan has always projected itself as a victim rather than as a perpetrator. जब जॉर्ज बुश ने कहा था यू आर विद अस और अगेंस्ट अस, तो सबसे पहला उसके साथ में खड़े होने वाला कौन था? पाकिस्तान. ठीक है, पाकिस्तान से yes, we are your frontline partner in this global war on terror. Could there be a bigger irony? Frontline partner of USA in global war on terror was Pakistan. So Pakistan has used its strategic location, its importance in the overall Muslim world, its ability to walk that tightrope between USA and China and managed to survive all this long. Okay? We have to give it, it's not a very honorable kind of a thing that they have been doing, but this honorability के अंदर में एक बड़ा benchmark उन्होंने definitely set किया है. Their diplomats have been able to manage that. ठीक है? यहाँ तक बात समझ में आपके? Next point. Now, after the disintegration of USSR, I have told you right from my world history lectures that we human beings, we are always animated by ideas. Throughout human history, you will see there are certain ideas that dominate our thought process, consequently our institutions, consequently our interactions with other fellow human beings. After the Cold War में dominant idea क्या था? It was that conflict or clash between two alternative models, capitalism versus communism. अब 91 में जब सोवियत यूनियन का disintegration हो गया, तो उसके बाद में there was a void. उस वॉइड में हम देखते हैं दो चीजें आएंगी। पहली चीज जो आएगी वो होगा ग्लोबलाइजेशन। क्योंकि वर्ल्ड डिवाइडेड था, दो कैंप्स थी, अब वो कैंप्स खत्म हो गई हैं, so there was no reason for people to be on either side of some dividing line or some fissure. So इससे क्या हुआ, ग्लोबलाइजेशन होता है, that is one parallel trend. And second trend that we see is the challenge of global terrorism. Terrorism, as we have noted in the definition, has always been there. It's not a modern phenomena as such. ठीक है? But after 1990s, we see increasingly, like other things, terrorism का भी globalization होता है. ठीक है? You see the Al-Qaeda network. It is spread across so many different countries. और ऐसा ही नहीं है कि सिर्फ वो वेस्ट एशिया, नॉर्थ अफ्रीका में ही लिमिटेड है. अल-कायदा की फ्रेंचाइजी, सो टू स्पीक, वो आपको यूरोप में भी मिलती है, आपको यूएस के अंदर भी मिल जाती है. सही है कि नहीं? सो दिस इज लाइक, हर चीज का ग्लोबलाइजेशन हुआ, वैसे ही टेररिज्म भी ग्लोबलाइज हुआ है. और ये टेररिज्म अब दुनिया के सामने सबसे बड़ा चैलेंज सिक्योरिटी के टर्म्स में इमर्ज होता है. ओके, वो जो पहले थ्रेट था कैपिटलिज्म वर्सेस कम्युनिज्म के वॉर का, वो खत्म हो गया. अब ऐसा कोई आमने सामने का डायरेक्ट बड़ा एनिमी नहीं रहा. नाउ यू हैड एन एनिमी व्हिच वाज फेसलेस, व्हिच वाज फॉर्मलेस. Nobody knew about these terrorists before they attacked. These people, they were there inside USA itself. So it's a faceless, formless kind of a threat that the world was facing. Are you getting this point? Yes, no, can't say? Okay. So terrorism has replaced communism as the new enemy for the Western world led by USA. Okay? Sure. Next, because of this threat, USA waged wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. अफगानिस्तान के साथ में क्यों? Because Afghanistan was obviously harboring Osama bin Laden and many of his fellow associates. तालिबान की सरकार थी उस वक्त में. तालिबान की सरकार को उस वक्त दो तीन ही गवर्नमेंट्स की मान्यता थी. Only 2-3 governments had given it, acceptance. One was Pakistan, second was Saudi Arabia, and third was I think UAE or some other country. So very few countries had kind of diplomatic relations. USA told Taliban that you hand over Osama bin Laden to us, he is the culprit of this attack, and also along with him all Sunday were there. Osama bin Laden ने उस वक्त में स्टैंड ये दिया था उस वक्त मीडिया को, that see I was not involved in any way with this attack, but I congratulate those people. These are his words. I congratulate those people who carried out this attack. तालिबान की गवर्नमेंट ने कहा कि एक न्यूट्रल कोर्ट ऑफ लॉ के अंदर में आप ये प्रूव करवा दीजिए कि उसामा ने ये अटैक किया है, वी विल हैंड ओवर उसामा बिन लादेन. ऑब्वियसली यूएसए से बढ़कर उनके लिए और कोई कोर्ट ऑफ लॉ हो नहीं सकता. दे क्लियरली सेड दैट ही इज गिल्टी एंड आइदर यू हैंड हिम ओवर टू अस और वी विल मीट हिम. एंड ऑन दिस नेचुरली ऑल द कंट्रीज ऑफ द वर्ल्ड वर विद यूएसए. इट वाज द बिगेस्ट अटैक. It had shaken the world. It had shaken USA. So a big coalition was built under the leadership of USA, sanctioned by United Nations, and we see an invasion taking place in Afghanistan. और यहाँ पर अफगानिस्तान का जो इन्वेजन था, उसके मल्टीपल गोल्स थे. एक तो ये उसामा बिन लादेन एंड ब्रिंगिंग अदर्स टू बुक, वो तो था ही, लेकिन उसके साथ साथ में ये जो रेजिम थी तालिबान की, which obviously was a medievalistic kind of a regime, which supported this kind of ideology, even if they might not openly say so, but their activities were very clear. Okay? So this was a threat perpetually for USA and other like-minded countries. So instead of this regime bringing about a modern, democratic, liberal Afghanistan with rights for women and minorities was a major goal of this invasion by USA. You understand this? Okay? What we are trying to do here, guys, हम पूरा सारा सीक्वेंस में सारा पिक्चर लार्जर बिल्ड करते जा रहे हैं. ठीक है? So that when we discuss the case studies, all of this background will be clear for you. I won't have to discuss all these things later on. I hope you're getting it. ठीक है? Within a few days or weeks max, Afghanistan की Taliban government, it could not obviously stand up to the might of USA. All the cities, including Kabul, fell. And these Talibanis, they melted away into the mountains, Tora Mountains, Muslims here. Osama also is reported to have, sneaked into these mountains, and from there, sometime later, a few months later, he is supposed to have crossed over onto this side, that is Pakistan. The question is, Pakistan is the first ally, so to speak, in global war and terror. Pakistan की border अफगानिस्तान के साथ में, उसी border को cross करके ओसामा बिन लादेन अंदर आता है, जब पूरी दुनिया का attention. Yes, the border is very tough. That is understandable. Terrain is very tough. But nevertheless, when USA is involved in that process, when so much technology and money is being pumped in, how could Osama bin Laden and so many Taliban fighters cross over onto this side of Pakistan without some element of complicity? Pakistan was directly complicit in this process. Nevertheless, what happened later was Afghanistan का एक transition शुरू हुआ towards democratic form of government. हामिद करज़ाई, इनकी गवर्नमेंट जो है इंटरिम गवर्नमेंट बनाई गई वहां पर, अफगानिस्तान को रीबिल्ड करने की कोशिश की. This was a great opportunity for India. थोड़ा सा यहाँ इंडिया अफगानिस्तान वाला एस्पेक्ट भी हम देख लेते हैं. India invested massively in redeveloping Afghanistan at this point. We had already experienced that IC-814 wala hijacking in late 90s. Remember that hijacking? We discussed sometime earlier. And Taliban had supported that hijacking by providing its airport to the hijackers. Although they did not directly say so, but it was very evident that they were hand in glove with the hijackers. We had to release some dreaded terrorists, including Maulana Masood Azhar, later responsible for many more attacks in India. So we naturally did not want this kind of a government in Afghanistan. We wanted a more stable, prosperous, democratic Afghanistan which respected rights of minorities and its women. So India supported massively Afghanistan in this transition. We have done a lot for Afghanistan. We built up their roads. We built up dams for them. उनकी पार्लियामेंट की बिल्डिंग बनाई, schools बनाए, वहां पर माइनिंग, अफगानिस्तान इज वेरी रिच इन मिनरल्स, सो माइनिंग रिलेटेड हमने अफगानिस्तान को हेल्प किया. वी बिल्ट अप अ लॉट ऑफ स्कूल्स ओवर देयर. We gave scholarships for Afghan people to come and study in India. A lot of Afghan students, you might have seen, they come to University of Pune also and many other universities in our part of the country. We train their officials. Their military officials were trained in India. We train their administrators also. I see बहुत सारी help भारत ने अफगानिस्तान को दी. So much so that over the course of 2 decades, मतलब 2001 के बाद से लेकर के अभी 2022 तक अगर पीरियड देखें, India is the single largest development aid provider for Afghanistan in this region. About $2 billion plus of aid India has given to Afghanistan. $2 billion plus. Prominent projects उसमें सलमा डैम, पार्लियामेंट की बिल्डिंग, जारांज डेलाराम हाईवे, ये कुछ प्रोजेक्ट्स ऐसे हैं जो भारत ने वहां पर में डेवलप किए. अच्छा, साइड नोट पे बता रहा हूँ जिस तक ये सारे प्रोजेक्ट्स डेवलप करना आसान नहीं था. ये जो जारांज डेलाराम हाईवे है, दिस इज डीप इनसाइड अफगानिस्तान, वेस्टर्न साइड में, तो ये सारा इंसर्जेंट इन्फेस्टेड एरिया. So in such areas, our engineers, Border Road Organization (BRO), they went and worked over there to build up all these infrastructure projects. And consequently, India has tremendous goodwill in Afghanistan even today. It is unfortunate that ultimately Taliban came back to power because of USA mistakes, because of Pakistan's involvement, so on and so forth. But whatever India has done for people of Afghanistan, the common people have not forgotten that. And traditionally also, even before Taliban came to power, Afghans, they love Indians a lot and they have a lot of resentment against Pakistan. Because Pakistanis have always exploited Afghanistan for their benefits, whereas India has always been forthcoming for their needs. Okay? So ये अफगानिस्तान का स्टोरी जो है वो आगे चल रहा है. 2001 में this was about Afghanistan. Then the next country that USA changed the regime in was Iraq. With Iraq, this is again also in the context of post 9/11. The environment at that time also was all about the security threats that the Western world was facing emerging from this part of the world. USA and UK accused that Iraq is harboring WMDs, weapons of mass destruction. इनके पास में nuclear weapons हैं, and these could be used to destroy America's good friend Israel, which is very close by, or some other country. And therefore, we need to go and mount an invasion. International agencies certified that Iraq के पास में ऐसा कुछ मिला नहीं. हमने जितना भी इंस्पेक्शन किया है, we have not found any WMDs, so no invasion is warranted. UN के अंदर में there was a vote that was taken. General Assembly voted against this regime change or invasion. But despite that, USA and UK went ahead with this. They defeated the government of Saddam Hussein and tried to bring in democracy, only pushing Iraq into a deep abyss out of which it has not come out till date. Iraq was ruled by a brutal dictator. Nevertheless, it was doing very well economically speaking. Freedom of speech expression nahi tha, definitely. But people were well to do. Iraq, I don't know if I've told you, it used to win a handful of medals in Olympics. When we won one medal at Olympics, it used to be a big deal. Small tiny Iraq used to win a handful of medals at the Olympics in those times. It was rich, it was doing well, but USA को उसने challenge किया. Saddam Hussein wanted to replace dollar and have alternate currency for trading in oil. So this was challenging the financial hegemony of USA, which it could never stand. And therefore, all of this. A lot of people feel that USA wants Iraq का oil. USA के पास अपना खुद का बहुत oil. USA has built up its strategic reserves. समझा था कोई word? Strategic reserves. USA has, piled up millions of barrels of oil, and it is only waiting for that time when there will be a scarcity in the world, and USA will have all that oil and can dictate terms to others. It has shale gas. Shale gas. Have you heard of this term? Yes, it's a natural gas which is trapped inside rock formations. So USA is itself self-sufficient largely. But the challenge that was mounted to its financial hegemony, that was its Achilles heel. If you listen to Achilles heel, I mean, if you heard this phrase, Achilles heel. Okay, quite few. So there was this legendary Greek fighter by the name Achilles, who was given a vardhan by Greek god Zeus, that he will not be killed in battle. Wherever he's attacked on the body, he will not be killed, except one spot, which was just above the heel. On the backside of your heel, if you just go above your heel, that bone over there, that was his weak part, and that's how the term Achilles heel has come about. It means a weak point of somebody, where that person is most vulnerable. So US की जो vulnerability है, वो vulnerability उसकी वो financial hegemony, वो जिस दिन खत्म हो गई, US के सारे resources जो है वो उसको save नहीं कर सकते. आज चाइना क्या कर रहा है? चाइना देखिए बहुत जगहों पर में उसने US डॉलर की जगह चाइनीज रेमनबी को यूज करना स्टार्ट किया. ठीक है? And this is what is hurting US the most. Okay? Challenge to that financial hegemony. Obviously, Iraq did not have that wherewithal, and USA easily surmounted Iraq. And after that, we have seen Iraq has gone through a lot of bad patch. It has never really come out of it. Not just Iraq, next doors, many other countries met the same fate. Whether it was Syria, whether it was Libya, all of these countries in that region who had some sort of history of challenging or offending USA met similar fate. In the name of democracy and human rights, USA has brought about these regime changes, only worsening the situation of people living over there. Okay? So these were the invasions of Iraq and Afghanistan. So post 9/11, with this increased measure of consciousness about security, we see the domination of USA further increased on the world. Cold War, you had a bipolar world. After Cold War, initial decade, first decade after Cold War, you see US is the sole superpower, but it is not dictating terms to the rest of the world. After 9/11, it becomes a grounds for USA to interfere directly into other countries, violate their sovereignty, bring about regime change very openly, as we saw in case of many of these countries. So we see more and more dominance of USA after 9/11 ka attack. 9/11 attack brought about a new type of security threat to the world, to which every country was vulnerable. A threat that was sudden, covert, and more dangerous than a conventional war. Conventional war के अंदर में you are expecting the other side's army to attack you. Naturally, if situation goes to that level, you have already thought, anticipated, and prepared for it. अभी recently आपने सुना होगा, our northern army commander, General Dwivedi, I think his name is, he made a statement which became very newsworthy. He said that Indian army is just waiting for political orders and we will take POK. Now that statement was slightly out of context, it was quoted out of context. But it is a statement coming from a soldier. 1994 mein also, Parliament has passed a resolution that POK is ours and we will take it at some point. So Indian army clearly has that mindset ready, that we have to be battle ready or prepared with our plans regarding POK if situation comes to that. So we are ready with it. If the order comes, they know what needs to be done immediately after that. There's nothing new about it as such. His statement was twisted and that's why it became very newsworthy. Anyways, not going into that. So we are prepared when it comes to conventional war. But with terror, the nuisance value of these attacks is that they are sudden, they are covert, and they are more dangerous than conventional wars. Sudden, तो आप समझ सकते हैं कि immediate attack होता है, you don't know where and when you will be struck. Covert is also obvious because nobody is going to declare and come to attack you. But why more dangerous? Conventional war or terror attack, इसके बीच में terror attack is more dangerous because it hits the morale of the people more than a conventional war. See the difference? Kargil war के दौरान में, जब Kargil war हुआ था, the national morale was so high that we had excess of blood donation. It became difficult to preserve the blood that people had donated for the war effort. That was the national morale. We are prepared for that. Okay? But when there is a sudden and this kind of a spectacular kind of a terror attack which you did not expect, then there is an element of fear. Economy goes into a dizzy. Investments, they start to flow out of your country. Therefore, these kind of attacks are more dangerous than conventional wars. You understand now why I'm differentiating between the two? Okay? Okay? After 9/11, another major change that we see is use of terrorism as an element of foreign policy by many countries. Before 9/11 also, countries have resorted to it. But post 9/11, we will see that increasingly, more and more countries will resort to this kind of a thing. Take the case with China. I've told you perhaps earlier, North Korea is kept by China only to do its dirty jobs. What China cannot do by itself openly. China cannot threaten USA that I can launch nuclear weapons on you. It may very well have the capacity. But as a responsible international player, it cannot do it in so many words. Vocally, वो कह नहीं सकता. So instead, it uses such rogue elements. What has Pakistan been doing? Pakistan has also been doing basically similar kind of things. So terror as an element or instrument of foreign policy is something that has been increasingly used after 9/11. Many countries also now saw some stringent measures being taken up to control terror activities. Laws were passed across different countries to prevent terror attacks. There is no point once the terrorists attack you and then you take measures after that, because by then the damage has been done. The national morale has been affected. The economy has taken a beating because of it. You must be able to preempt that. And to preempt terror attack, necessarily you require preventive laws. Okay? So we will see after 9/11, many countries will pass preventive terror-related laws. जैसे भारत के केस में we had the famous or infamous, whichever way you look at it, POTA, Prevention of Terrorist Activities Act. Okay? This is passed in the wake of attacks in India, but then the larger global context obviously is of 9/11. POTA was criticized a lot because it was abused, misused. It was a very stringent, very draconian law. You could simply be picked up under charges of terrorism, kept in prison for several months without any trial, without any investigation, and even your confession statement was considered as admissible under the law. Later it was challenged, and court has ruled that confession statement given before the police is not an admissible evidence. याद रखिए. अगर पुलिस ने आपके पास से कोई स्टेटमेंट एक्सट्रैक्ट किया है अंडर कस्टडी, तो बाद में आप जुडिशरी के सामने उससे बिल्कुल रिट्रैक्ट कर सकते हो. You can say that this was taken under duress. मुझे इससे थोड़ा सा जोक याद आ गया. On a side note, बस आपको बताया कुछ. एक बार ये competition हुआ between police from 3 different countries, USA, Japan, and India. Have I told you about this? So all the 3 police were bragging which police is the most efficient in the world. USA said we are the best. Japan also said so. भारत ने कहा कि इलाका किसी का भी बहुत धमाका मारा ही होता है. We are the best police in the world. So they said let's settle this. Let's have a investigation वाला competition. Whoever wins will be considered as the best police in the world. So they all gathered in a forest. Forest में तीनों पुलिस मिलती हैं और वो लोग एक गेम प्लान करते हैं. एक रैबिट, ससा, they bring that and they say we will leave this fellow in the forest and one at a time the police is supposed to go and fetch that rabbit. जिसका भी टाइम सबसे कम होगा, that police will be considered as the most efficient police in the world. So पहले ससे को छोड़ दिया जाता है. The Japanese, they decided they will go first. The Japanese police hunt back that rabbit in 6 hours time. वो rabbit वापस गया. They say, we took only 6 hours to find this rabbit. USA police says, okay, now it's our turn. The rabbit is again let loose. US police goes in, they bring it back in 4 hours. See, we are better than the Japanese. In the Indians can't beat this. Indian says, okay, स्वागत नहीं करूँगा. हमारी बारी. The rabbit is again let loose. The Indian police goes in. An hour passes by. 2 hours, 3, 4. The Indian police is nowhere to be seen. So US says, we have one hands down. The Japs say, okay, now let's see for the second position, whether they are able to beat a Taliban. 5 hours, 6 hours, and the Indian police are nowhere to be seen. The Japanese are second. They say, let's wait for the Indian police and then we'll have the prize distribution, so on and so forth. 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, 24 hours, and the Indian police is nowhere to be found. Now they start to get worried. What has happened to these fellows? And as people who practice the same profession, they naturally feel we should go and find out. Maybe they might be in some trouble. तो ये लोग ढूंढने चले जाते हैं और जंगल में डीप इनसाइड ढूंढते हुए एक ऐसी आइसोलेटेड जगह पर पहुंचते हैं जहां पेड़ से एक बंदर उल्टा लटका हुआ. A monkey is hanging upside down from a tree, and the Indian police are giving it third-degree torture and forcing that monkey to accept that it is a rabbit. So, confession extracted under duress, under police custody, is not considered as valid in a court of law for this very reason. Anyways, so many such acts were passed during this time. तो मैं आपको ओके अच्छा इस दौर में एकेडमिकली एक आइडिया जो है वो बहुत डिबेट हुआ था 2000s के अंदर में. वो आइडिया सिर्फ मैं आपको बता के जा रहा हूँ, ऑल्दो ये आइडिया बाद में डिस्क्रेडिट हो गया. The idea was given by a scholar Samuel Huntington. He wrote a famous book by this same ideas. It's an eponymous book. The idea की book का title है. The idea is Clash of Civilization. What is the idea? Clash of Civilization. What does he mean by this? He says कि अब human history इस evolutionary phase में आ गई है कि अब यहाँ से आगे जो warfare होगा वो द्वंद्व संघर्ष होगा किसके बीच में? Civilizations के बीच में, संस्कृतियों के बीच में. So you have a Western civilization, you have a Islamic civilization, you have an Indian civilization, you have Indic civilization, you have a Sinic, यानी Chinese civilization. तो ये पुरानी जो civilization है, अब ये fault lines बनेगी और इनके बीच में clash होगा. Okay? The world that we had seen over the last few centuries was dominated by the idea of nation states. We've all heard of that idea? You know how that is central to the world? So Samuel Huntington कहता है कि अब वो idea it's passé now. अब वो खत्म हो चुका है. अब civilizational history matter करेगी और clash civilizations के बीच में होगा. ठीक है? So in early 2000s after 9/11 ये आइडिया जो है वो काफी चर्चा में रहा, काफी डिबेट में रहा सैमुअल हंटिंगटन पर, बट लेटर इट हैज बीन डिस्क्रेडिटेड. ठीक है, बट इट्स एन इंपॉर्टेंट बुक, एन इंपॉर्टेंट डिबेट, सो दैट्स व्हाई आई जस्ट थॉट इट नीड्स टू बी मेंशन्ड. क्लैश ऑफ सिविलाइजेशन. Next comes impact of United Nations Organization or UNO. Before 9/11, you see UNO is not very serious as far as the issue of terrorism is concerned. Despite India's best efforts, as we noted earlier, the convention was never passed and UNO never saw any momentum building up for terrorism-related issue. But after its greatest patron, that is USA, was hit, UN suddenly becomes very active now. Okay, 25% of UN का budget comes from USA alone. Now that its patron is hurt, UN starts to take this issue very seriously, and we see a number of steps taken by United Nations to bring about some kind of consensus on terrorism, to take some kind of steps to prevent it. What all steps and measures have been taken by UN? All of that are there in the notes. So there's no point in me telling you the facts कि ये जो है वो consensus बना था, ये steps लिया था. These are just facts that you need to read through. Adverse economic impact because of terrorism. Terrorism naturally had an impact on the economy of the world. Planes being used as bombs. This was something that nobody had imagined. You see, after 9/11, suddenly stock markets go into a dizzy. US की इकोनॉमी जो है उसके बाद में इफेक्ट होती है. People lose confidence. अगर US हिट हो सकता है, तो what about other developing countries in the world? So all of this naturally put some kind of a brake on the globalization of the economy that was taking place. Slowdown की तरफ 2008 वाला जो आएगा आगे, उसका कहीं ना कहीं एक initial pain beginning जो है वो post 9/11 वाले phase में ही हमको नजर आती है. So terrorism, although it is a security related threat as such, its effect does not remain in the domain of security alone. It goes on to impact economy as well. Okay? So this was the issue regarding terrorism. We have understood its definition, we have understood its background, we have seen its different types, we have seen its impact also. Now we go on to the next international issue that we are supposed to see, which is globalization. What is meant by globalization? Now this term is specifically mentioned. Okay, so there is an instruction for online students. Right. The difficulty with this term is that there are multiple definitions of globalization. People have defined it in different way depending on their vantage point, depending on the discipline in which they are studying or contributing. Okay, but we'll try to see a broad, open-ended definition of globalization. And by the way, globalization is a very favorite topic of UPSC. Invariably, you will see every 2 to 3 years max, 2 से 3 साल में एक बार 100% आपको या तो ग्लोबलाइजेशन से कनेक्टेड क्वेश्चन मिलेगा या आपको ऐसे मिलेगा. ग्लोबलाइजेशन की थीम अगर आप देख लें लास्ट 25 years के अंदर में ग्लोबलाइजेशन थीम रिलेटेड ऐसे एटलीस्ट हैव बीन आस्क्ड 4 to 5 times. Therefore, it becomes imperative on us. अब आप सरप्राइज होंगे. You will be surprised, but this is a stark reality in about how students prepare. I was discussing preparation of a candidate who is a senior candidate into his third attempt, and we were discussing कि भैया क्या गड़बड़ हुई है, क्यों जो है वो आप कन्वर्ट नहीं कर पाए. अब वो थोड़ा सा हम लोग डायग्नोसिस कर रहे हैं. अब चलते चलते मैंने उसको कुछ थीम्स बताई जिस पर यूपीएससी रिपीटेटिवली क्वेश्चन पूछता है. एंड ग्लोबलाइजेशन इज वन सच थिंग. जेंडर फेवरेट थीम है यूपीएससी का. जेंडर के ऊपर में कई दफा ऐसे आ चुके हैं, कई दफा क्वेश्चन यूपीएससी ने पूछा. सो आई आस्क्ड हिम, हाउ विल यू डिफाइन ग्लोबलाइजेशन? सिंपल सी चीज, हाउ विल यू डिफाइन ग्लोबलाइजेशन? And that candidate who was in his third attempt was not able to define what is meant by globalization. हाँ, मोटा मोटा हम सबको पता है. वो तो किसी अंडरग्रेड स्टूडेंट को भी जरा पूछिए ग्लोबलाइजेशन मतलब क्या, तो सबको पता है ना. मैकडॉनल्ड्स हमारे बाजू में आ गया, वड़ा पाव को हम मैक आलू टिक्की बोल के खा रहे हैं, ग्लोबलाइजेशन हो रहा है. ठीक है, बट एकेडमिकली स्पीकिंग हम उसको कैसे डिफाइन करेंगे? सो अ कैंडिडेट हु इज इनटू हिज थर्ड अटेम्प्ट कुड नॉट डिफाइन दैट. ये लैक ऑफ प्रोफेशनलिज्म है हमारी प्रिपरेशन. अगर कोई चीज यूपीएससी प्रायोरिटाइज कर रहा है और बहुत एविडेंट है, कुछ आपको उसके अंदर में शर्लॉक होम्स बनने की जरूरत नहीं. अगर आपने पिछले 10 साल के क्वेश्चन देख लिए तो ग्लोबलाइजेशन एंड वुमेन, ग्लोबलाइजेशन एंड एल्डरली, ग्लोबलाइजेशन और फलाना, इतने क्वेश्चन पूछ लिया यूपीएससी ने डायरेक्टली. तो फिर ग्लोबलाइजेशन क्या है ये तो पता होना चाहिए. नहीं, उसकी एक डेफिनेशन, एक व्याख्या करके पार्ट पाइएगा. ठीक है, सो डोंट लेट दैट बी योर अप्रोच. प्रिपेयर थीमेटिकली. ग्लोबलाइजेशन इज अ फेवरेट थीम ऑफ यूपीएससी. सो लेट्स सी हाउ वी कुड डिफाइन इट. Globalization is a word used to describe the growing interdependence of the world's economies, cultures, and populations. Used to describe the growing interdependence of the world's economies, cultures, and populations brought about by cross-border trade in goods and services, technology, and flow of investment, people, and information. 2 parts of the definition. I think this definition encapsulates the idea very well. This should serve our purpose. 2 parts हैं इसके. किस चीज को डिफाइन करता है वो? Growing interdependence. याद रखना. This is one part of the definition. Growing interdependence of what? World's economy, culture, and population. So although conventional wisdom says that globalization is all about economy, yes, to start with, but not exclusively so. Interdependence जरूर है economy का, लेकिन उसके साथ साथ में cultures. ठीक है? Are we not binge watching a lot of series that are made in USA? Is K-pop not becoming increasingly popular? Are people in distant and remote parts of the world not practicing yoga? हो रहा है कि नहीं हो रहा है ये चीज? ठीक है, सो क्या हमको वो इंटरडिपेंडेंस दिख रहा है? नॉट जस्ट इकोनॉमी तो ही, वो तो बड़ा ऑब्वियस है. कल्चर में भी हमको इस चीज का दिख रहा है. ठीक है, पॉपुलेशन के में भी हमको इसका दिख रहा है. आर वी नॉट मोर मोबाइल देन वी वर इन द लास्ट जनरेशन? अगर आप आपके पेरेंट्स से पूछेंगे, उनके जमाने में अगर कोई यूएस यूके जाकर के सेटल हो गया, इट वाज कंसीडर्ड सच अ बिग डील. यूके मध्ये आहे, अमेरिकेत आहे. नाउ एवरी अदर सेकंड गाय इज फ्लाइंग टू यूएस. ये तो कॉमन चीज हो गई. सो दिस इज दैट इंक्रीजिंग इंटरडिपेंडेंस दैट वी सी इन द वर्ल्ड. पहला पार्ट समझ में आपको? आई वांट यू ऑल टू रीड इट अलोन. स्टार्ट हियर. ग्लोबलाइजेशन This is one part of it. ये क्यों हो रहा है? उसका explanation is in the second part. Why is it happening? This is brought about because of primarily 4-5 aspects. Cross-border trade in goods and services. You are all using Samsung and all of these smartphones. Where are these made? Where are these phones made? Manufacturing का सबका होना चाइना में हो रहा है कि नहीं हो रहा है? Global value chains. आप नाइकी का शू पहनते हो, डिजाइन उसका हांगकांग में होता है, उसका लेस वियतनाम में बनता है, उसका सोल जो है वो बांग्लादेश में बनता है, और अल्टीमेटली सब जाकर के चाइना के अंदर में असेंबल होता है. So we are seeing increasing flow of goods and services का trade. This is first aspect. Second, technology. Technology is very essential and central in globalization. You might have seen that movie. I'm not remembering the name exactly now. Zuckerberg ने जो Facebook बनाया था, उसकी स्टोरी पर बेस्ड था वो. What is the name? Social network. Facebook. It started as a project in a college in USA. ठीक है? And within years, few years, the whole world is hooked onto it. Today, India, after USA, has the second highest number of people on Facebook. Now you need to add many other people who are not on Facebook, but then they are there on Insta, they are there on WhatsApp. पर तो अभी पूरा भारत ही, सारी पढ़ाई लिखाई भी हमारी वहीं से हो रही है, WhatsApp यूनिवर्सिटी में, right? So what is this? This is that technology that is the social media. Getting this? So trade in goods and services. Second is technology. Third, flow of investment, people, and information. Okay? You see, recently in last few months, India's stock market was falling. Did you observe that? ठीक है, हमारे स्टॉक प्राइसेस कम हो रही थी, सेंसेक्स निफ्टी गिर रहे थे. क्यों हो रहा था ये? Why was it happening? Foreign investors, foreign institutional investors particularly, they were taking money out of India. Why were they taking money out of India? बिकॉज यूएसए के अंदर में नाउ द इंटरेस्ट रेट्स आर गोइंग टू इंक्रीज, दैट इज द एक्सपेक्टेशन. 2008 में जब फाइनेंशियल क्राइसिस आया था तो यूएसए ने एक पॉलिसी इंप्लीमेंट किया था व्हिच वाज कॉल्ड एज क्वांटिटेटिव ईजिंग. क्या कहते हैं उसको, लिख के रखिएगा करता हूं, क्वांटिटेटिव ईजिंग. व्हाट वाज दिस पॉलिसी अबाउट? दिस पॉलिसी वाज अबाउट मेकिंग cheap money available in the market, lowering of the interest rate, okay, so that people take more and more loans and they invest, they buy properties, they do some business. Financial crisis में से बाहर निकलने के लिए यूएस का ये पॉलिसी था, quantitative easing. Now slowly USA is withdrawing out of that policy and the expectation is that the Fed, अमेरिका का जो आरबीआई का counterpart है, that will raise the interest. So US का economy will become more attractive to investors. So what are they doing? They are taking money out from other markets in the world, including India, and parking it in USA. Okay? So what is happening over here? This is flow of investment which has become so easy. Like I as an investor, I invest in Indian markets, but if I so choose, I can very easily invest in US markets sitting over here. I don't even have to own receipts of USA. There are now intermediaries available जो रुपये में मेरे पास से पैसे लेंगे and they will buy shares in USA for me. It has become that easy. Okay? So this is that easy flow of investment that has happened, which is increasing this globalization. तो flow में कौन-कौन सी चीजें हैं? सबसे पहले हमने देखा investments. ठीक है? Second is people. People are now traveling more easily, more frequently, right? It's more easier for people to travel from one part of the world, logistically also, financially also, technologically also. In all senses, this travel has become more easy. People can go and take up jobs in other parts of the world. This is another flow which adds to globalization. And third is information. Sitting over here, something happens in USA, something major happens in USA, within seconds, we know about it. Or any part of the world for that matter. This access to information also further facilitates globalization. So globalization क्या है? It is interdependence in whom? Economies, cultures, and populations. ठीक है? What is it? Why is it brought about? Because of cross-border trade in goods and services, technology, and flow of investments, people, and information. All of this cumulatively is globalization. Basic idea को समझ में आया? Everybody? Okay. आगे बढ़ो. Okay. So technically speaking, globalization is not like an issue that we discuss in strict sense. It is more a phenomena that the world is seeing in recent decades. ये कोई आइसोलेटेड इवेंट नहीं है ना, ये कोई आइसोलेटेड डेवलपमेंट नहीं है, ये बहुत ही ओवरआर्चिंग थीम है जो दुनिया के हर एस्पेक्ट को इंपैक्ट करती है, ट्रेड को, इन्वेस्टमेंट को, पीपल के मूवमेंट को, कल्चर को, एवरीथिंग. दिस हैज सेवरल इंप्लीकेशंस नॉट जस्ट फॉर द डेवलप्ड वर्ल्ड बट आल्सो फॉर द डेवलपिंग वर्ल्ड. यानी ग्लोबलाइजेशन की वजह से सिर्फ डेवलप्ड वर्ल्ड इंपैक्ट हो रहा है ऐसा नहीं, इट हैज अ टू वे इंपैक्ट. डेवलपिंग वर्ल्ड इज आल्सो गेटिंग इंपैक्टेड. व्हेन इन्वेस्टमेंट कम्स फ्रॉम यूएसए इनटू इंडिया, नेचुरली इंडियन इकोनॉमी इज इंपैक्टेड बिकॉज़ if it goes out of India, again there is an impact on India. Okay? So it's a two-way process, a process in which developed as well as developing countries are going to be impacted, and impacts will be both positive as well as negative. Okay? पहले हमारे यहाँ देखिए families कैसी होती थी? We had big joint families. गांव की तरफ आप चले जाएंगे तो पहले वाड़ा की कंसेप्ट होती थी. तो घर के अंदर में 5-50 जो है वो लोग जब रह रहे हैं तब ऐसा लगता था कि हाँ कोई फैमिली है. Now it's a nuclear family. Kids don't want their parents also to live with them. एक ही सोसाइटी में रहेंगे लेकिन दो अलग अलग फ्लैट चाहिए. पेरेंट्स का फ्लैट अलग होगा और इनका फ्लैट अलग होगा. इस लेवल तक चीजें पहुंच गई. अब कुछ दिनों के बाद कैसे होगा? हस्बैंड का फ्लैट अलग होगा और वाइफ का फ्लैट अलग होगा. बोथ ऑफ देम नीड देयर स्पेस. ठीक है? सो व्हाई इज दिस हैपनिंग? इट इज अ सोशल फिनोमेना बट इट इज डिक्टेटेड बाय इकोनॉमिक नीड्स. अर्लियर इट मेड सेंस टू हैव अ बिग फैमिली बिकॉज यू गॉट सोशल स्टेटस एंड प्रोटेक्शन. गांव के अंदर में जब आप रह रहे हैं और आपकी फैमिली में 50 लोग हैं, 3 जनरेशंस लिविंग टुगेदर, तो गांव में आपका वजन बनता है कि नहीं? एवरी पॉलिटिशियन यूज्ड टू बूस्ट सच फैमिली. एक फैमिली और 50 वोट अपने. दिस वाज द आइडिया. एक गट्टा 50 मतलब मेंढा डाले. ठीक है? But now economically it does not make sense. Why? Because there will be somebody in the family who is more educated and skilled, who's earning more. So he will have to disproportionately bear that burden of others. So हर कोई क्या चाहता है कि हम जो है वो separate out हो जाए. ठीक है? People migrate towards cities. और cities में जाने के बाद में they don't even want to have their parents with them. Parents की याद कब आती है? कब आती है? जब बच्चे हो जाते हैं. ठीक है? They need parents to only take care of kids in the initial years, and after that they forget those parents also. Once the kids are independent. This is a social reality. But this social reality is dictated by what? By this economic phenomena. Getting this point? How they are integrated? Now let us see हमने definition देखी. Let us see the meaning of globalization. Globalization means extension of economic activities. Please note down every single point. नोट्स पे तो यही, वहां पर अंडरलाइन कर लीजिए अगर होगा आपके सामने. तो होता क्या है ना दोस्तों कि हम ये चीजों को we feel very innocuous. अब ये तो क्या पता है हम? हाँ पता है, लेकिन 7 मिनट्स में 150 वर्ड्स में लिख सकते हो क्या? वहां सवाल. ठीक है? And then if it does not come calling in 30 seconds ना, तो वो पता होना कोई काम नहीं है. वो पता होना सिर्फ आपके फ्रेंड सर्कल में इंप्रेस करने के लिए हेल्प करेगा. You can have a very intellectual discussion and people will be like, तू कहां से आया है? इतना ज्ञान तूने कहां से लेकर आया? ठीक है? You will impress people but you will not get the post. You have to be professional. So let's see the meaning. Extension of economic activities across national boundaries free. Extension of economic activities across national boundaries freely. I give you that example of Nike shoe. That supply chain, it traverses so many different countries. Okay? So that is that economic activity which is going across different national boundaries. Second, integration of national economy with the global economy. Integration of national economy with global economy. You see what is happening with India's IT sector today. India's IT sector today also is seeing a lot of job losses. You read of that? US में तो हो ही रहा है. Amazon देख लीजिए और भी दूसरी टेक बेस्ड जो कंपनीज हैं, वहां पर भी सैकिंग्स हो रही हैं, ले-ऑफ्स हो रहे हैं, ये सब तो हो ही रहा है. इंडिया में भी हो रहा है. क्यों हो रहा है? क्योंकि इंडिया की जो बड़ी-बड़ी कंपनीज हैं, they are all dependent on US and UK का मार्केट. When US and UK market get hit, then invariably Indian IT companies they suffer. You all can relate with this, right? Okay? So this is the integration of national economy with the global economy. Saudi Arabia में there was a oil refinery, उनकी सबसे बड़ी रिफाइनरी. उस रिफाइनरी पर हाउती रिबेल्स, ये यमन के लोग हैं, शिया ज़ैदी कम्युनिटीज हैं, they attacked that refinery using drones. And for some time, Saudi Arabia का जो प्रोसेस था रिफाइनरी का वो halt हुआ for a few days. Suddenly the oil prices they rose and India was affected because of that. ठीक है, कितना इफेक्ट हो रहा है? एक रिफाइनरी में एक अटैक हुआ सऊदी अरेबिया. ठीक है, we have so many countries from whom we source oil. इराक से भी हम लेते हैं, ठीक, हम दूसरी गल्फ कंट्री से भी लेते हैं, रशिया से भी हम कुछ लेते हैं, ईरान से भी कुछ लेते हैं. अब ईरान का बहुत कम हो गया, लेकिन our basket is wide. एक कंट्री के एक रिफाइनरी पर अटैक हुआ, कुछ दिन उनका प्रोडक्शन बंद हुआ, ऑयल प्राइसेस वेंट फॉर अ टॉस. ऑयल प्राइसेस बढ़ रही है, देख करके इंस्टीट्यूशनल इन्वेस्टर्स ने मार्केट में से पैसा निकालना स्टार्ट कर दिया. इंडिया के स्टॉक प्राइसेस जो है वो टम्बल डाउन होने लगे. What is this? This is global economy, Indian economy integrated into the global economy. This is globalization. It gives you advantages. हमारे यहाँ का बना हुआ हल्दीराम जो है, वो आपको यूएस और यूके के हर बड़े स्टोर में उसके शेल्फ पे मिल जाएगा. हर चीज मिल जाएगी. आपको याद है कि मुझे पता नहीं, पहले गोली आती थी, हम लोग बचपन में बड़ा शौक से खाते थे, पान पसंद. नाम सुना आपने? ठीक है. तो उस जमाने में, मेरे स्कूल के जमाने में, इट वाज लाइक 25 पैसा, फिर बाद में 8 आना की गोली मिली. आज इंडिया में नहीं मिलती वो, अनलेस कोई गांव खेड़े में कहीं मिल जाए तो मिलती. यूएस के बड़े बड़े मॉल्स के अंदर में ना आपको पान पसंद नहीं मिलेगा. यहाँ पर बना हुआ पान पसंद भी आपको वहां मिल जाएगा. ठीक है, यहाँ का बना हुआ वहां मिल रहा है. दिस इज दैट इंटीग्रेशन. तो ये अपॉर्चुनिटीज भी लाता है और वैसे ही वो वल्नरेबिलिटीज भी लेकर जाता है. सो दो मीनिंग देखे हमने ग्लोबलाइजेशन के. पहला पढ़िए जरा, एक्सपेंशन ऑफ इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटीज across national boundaries free. Second, integration of national economy with the global economy. Third, there are 4 important flows that take place in globalization. 4 flow याद रखना. क्या चीजें फ्लो करती हैं? पहला है ट्रेड. Trade in goods as well as services. Goods and services will flow across national borders. You all agree with this? Okay. Second is capital, investments. अब 2 टाइप की हो सकती हैं. Either it can be FDI, foreign direct investment, इकोनॉमी में पढ़ा होगा आपने. एफडीआई में क्या होता है? पेप्सी हमारे यहाँ पर आकर के जमीन खरीदता है, कोई बड़ा सा प्लांट डालता है, मशीनरी लगाता है. ठीक, दैट इज डायरेक्ट इन्वेस्टमेंट. एंड सेकंड इज एफआईआई, इंस्टीट्यूशनल इन्वेस्टमेंट. वो कहां पर आता है? हमारे कैपिटल मार्केट्स में. सो वहां के बड़े फंड्स जो है वो हमारे यहाँ पर आकर के शेयर्स, बॉन्ड्स, ये सारी चीजें खरीदते हैं. सो दिस कैन हैपन बोथ वेज. मूवमेंट ऑफ कैपिटल. थर्ड इज मूवमेंट ऑफ पीपल. पीपल मूविंग अक्रॉस बॉर्डर्स. याद रखिए, दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर इंडिया. यूएस एंड अदर डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज दे वांट और दे एम्फसाइज दिस पार्ट. They want India to have more equal terms in terms of trade. They want more access to our markets. वो हमारी स्ट्रेंथ है ना, इतना बड़ा मार्केट है. Why does Zuckerberg come and give a जप्पी to Modi ji? Not because he loves India or Indians. It makes pure business sense. Okay? 400 million Indians yet to be connected to internet. That is the biggest pot of opportunity for any internet-based company. Okay? That's why. So next is movement of people. So they want more of trade and capital, whereas we emphasize more on this part, movement of people, because people or human resource is our strength. We as Indians, we are intelligent, we are hardworking, and we generally do well wherever we go. I know it sounds boastful. This is you see that diaspora, Indian diaspora, it is one of the most successful diasporas in the world. So India naturally wants more and more access for people to travel abroad. और developed countries जो है वो थोड़ा सा इसको लेकर के back foot पर है. They want your market, but they don't want your people to get that access. Donald Trump जब आया था, he had changed the visa norms, H1B visa norms. Why? Because जितने भी H1B visa निकल रहे थे, उसमें more than 60%, only one country was taking, India. बस वीजा जो यूएस में निकलता है, more than 60% out of so many countries in the world, 193 यूएन में है. इतनी सारी कंट्रीज में से एक कंट्री more than 60% ले रहा था, वो था इंडिया. So they did not like this. So they tweaked the norms to ensure that Indians would not get those many opportunities. Of course, there were other reasons, but this was one part of the story. Movement of people, this is the third aspect, third type of people. Fourth is technology. Free flow of technology. We, that is global south, we are not really that advanced when it comes to developing new technology. Most of that kind of stuff takes place in the Western world, and we want to have access of the latest and the best technology. 5G, for example, Japan already ahead of us. South Korea already way ahead of us. China already way ahead of us. We are lagging behind in this area. So what do we want? We want access to that technology. Globalization ensures this free flow of technology also. So 4 flows. expansion and intensification of connections and movements of people, goods, capital, ideas and culture. Mostly the same idea basically. Okay? Meaning देखा. Globalization में technology and trade, they are going to have disproportionate emphasis. All the flows are important, but the most important will be technology and trade. Why technology? Because technology provides that mechanism and platform on which globalization can succeed. Technology enables that. Getting this point? You can imagine how easy it has become to trade in the world because of the SWIFT network. That is the interbank trading system. You have an account in ICICI Bank, you're doing business with somebody sitting in America who has an account in American bank. You want to indulge in some transaction. अब ये आपकी कंट्री में तो नहीं हो रहा है. So you need an international network for that. So these technology platforms, payment systems, they enable or foster globalization. So they are exceptionally crucial. Technology. And second is trade, which is also considered as applied form of globalization. ठीक है? Globalization अगर concept है, interdependence की बात की थी ना मैं globalization में, तो उसका पहला application क्या है? Trade. वो interdependence सबसे ज्यादा कहाँ stress होगा? वो trade के terms में stress होगा. ठीक है? So these are the basic ideas regarding what is the concept of globalization. ठीक है? यहाँ से बात समझ में आई आपकी? Yes, no concept? No. Now based on this, let us see some of the key features of globalization. If you've understood the concept, then the features are like corollaries. They're very obvious and clear. What are the features? Integration of domestic economy with the global economy. I give you the example of that. There are so many Indian products which you can so easily access in markets abroad. What is this? This is that integration of Indian economy with the global economy. Second, opening up of domestic economy to foreign capital, investment, technology and competition also. Before 1991, that is before we went for LPG reforms, liberalization, privatization and globalization. Before that, if you see, Indian economy was not that open to foreign investment, foreign technology, foreign competition, etc. Coca-Cola को हमने भारत में से भगा दिया था, याद है ना आपको? The famous case study 1977 के अंदर में we had Coca-Cola go out of India. Foreign competition हमको नहीं चाहिए था. We were in that mode or that phase where we wanted protection for our desi products. यहाँ पे just on a side note बस आपको बता के जा रहा हूँ. This brand called as Thumbs Up. Thumbs Up was originally a product of Parle. ठीक है? और Coca-Cola ने जो है ये खरीद लिया था. And they stopped producing Thumbs Up. This is how multinational corporations behave. They use their deep pockets. Coca-Cola was entering Indian market. India में Thumbs Up was very popular. Indians have a flair for more stronger drinks, soft drinks. अब ये competition अगर खत्म करना है, so the best way is you directly buy out that competition and kill it. That is what it has done. But Indians were so fond of that Thumbs Up that Coca-Cola had to bring it back. But if you see, Thumbs Up को उतना Coca-Cola add नहीं करता है जितना वो उसके core products की करता है. तेरा जीवन पे ठेवलेला है. They have not finished it off, but at the same time they don't allow it to flourish because they don't want to damage their brand. Are you understanding? This is their conscious brand strategy. See what Mark Zuckerberg has done. Mark Zuckerberg bought WhatsApp, I think for $16 billion if I remember correctly. Why? Because WhatsApp had become so immensely popular, had it just metamorphosed and developed a full-fledged social media platform. अभी तो सिर्फ मैसेंजर था. अगर वो पूरा बड़ा प्लेटफॉर्म बना लेता तो उसके पास रेडीमेड बेस था मैसेंजर प्लेटफॉर्म की वजह से और वो फेसबुक का कंपटीशन बन जाता. सो मार्क जुकरबर्ग ने क्या किया? $16 बिलियन टच किए और वो प्लेटफॉर्म ही उसने खरीद लिया. इट इज नाउ पार्ट ऑफ द फेसबुक स्टेबल. अब क्या हो गया? व्हाट्सएप आप यूज करते रहो. व्हाट्सएप विल नॉट ट्रांसफॉर्म इनटू अ फुल फ्लेज्ड प्लेटफॉर्म. इट विल नेवर कंपीट फेसबुक. और उसको भी कैसे मोनेटाइज करना है इस पर व्हाट्सएप ने अपने जो है वो पॉलिसीज वगैरह चेंज की है अंडर जुकरबर्ग. दिस इज हाउ कॉम्पिटिशंस बिहेव. समझ में मतलब? सो ओपनिंग अप ऑफ इकोनॉमी टू फॉरेन कैपिटल, इन्वेस्टमेंट, टेक एंड कॉम्पिटिशन. दिस इज वन मोर फीचर ऑफ ग्लोबलाइजेशन. थर्ड, रिमूवल ऑफ टैरिफ एंड नॉन टैरिफ बैरियर्स. What do you mean by tariff barrier? Tariff barriers are basically the custom duties that are levied on goods. Okay? Countries to protect their local produce, what do? They raise the custom duties. 2017-18 की बात थी. Donald Trump was the president of USA. He had raised the tariff on steel coming in from China by 25%. Okay? Why so? So that American steel manufacturing could be protected. He had that slogan, America first. Let's make America great again. So he started to increase tariff barriers. Globalization is opposite of that. Globalization believes in reducing the tariff barriers. WTO में एक concept है, आप इकोनॉमी में पढ़ेंगे, मैं इसकी डिटेल्स में यहाँ नहीं जा सकता. MFN status, most favored nation status. A lot of you have already read about it. MFN status का मतलब क्या है? मतलब ये है कि अगर आप किसी एक कंट्री को कोई अच्छे favorable terms देते हैं in terms of trade, you can't disadvantage that vis-a-vis some other country. मतलब 100 लोगों के साथ में अगर मेरा ट्रेड है, उसमें एक्स कंट्री के साथ मेरे सबसे फेवरेबल टर्म्स हैं. आई एम सपोज टू गिव द सेम टर्म्स टू अदर कंट्रीज. सो द ट्रीटमेंट दैट आई गिव टू माय मोस्ट फेवर्ड नेशन, दैट शुड बी यूनिफॉर्मली एप्लीकेबल टू ऑल अदर्स. गेटिंग दिस पॉइंट? सो दिस इज in essence the idea of globalization. You have uniform treatment. You remove all the barriers of trade. WTO basically उसी के लिए काम करता है. हमारे यहाँ पर एग्जैक्ट ऑपोजिट था. We used to do the other way around before LPG. They had high tariff barriers. On the other hand, developed countries, even if they have low tariff barriers, they have other non-tariff barriers. What do we mean by non-tariff barriers? मतलब उन्होंने इतना ज्यादा कस्टम ड्यूटी तो नहीं लगाया, but they have other restrictions, because of which products coming from developing countries cannot go and compete in their markets. Make example देता हूं to make you understand this. There is a concept in EU, European Union, which is called as traceability. लिख लीजिएगा इसको, example के तौर पे कहीं काम आए. Traceability. 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 ये traceability क्या कहता है आप ये समझ लीजिए. वेंकीज ग्रुप का नाम सुना होगा आपने, वेंकटेश्वर हैचरीज. अब ये लोग हमारे यहाँ से एग्स एक्सपोर्ट करते हैं फॉरेन कंट्रीज. अब पुणे महाराष्ट्र यहाँ पर में कई हजारों फार्मर्स हैं, चिकन फार्मर्स, जो एग्स सप्लाई करते हैं वेंकटेश्वर हैचरीज को. वेंकटेश्वर हैचरीज उसको बॉक्स में पैक करता है, अपना ब्रांडिंग सिंबल वगैरह सब लगाता है और फिर उसको यूरोपियन यूनियन को एक्सपोर्ट करता है. ट्रेसेबिलिटी ये कहता है कि उस बॉक्स के ऊपर में ये एग्स एग्जैक्टली किस फार्म से आए हैं उसका पूरा एंड टू एंड हमको इंफॉर्मेशन मिलना चाहिए. सो ही इज हैविंग थाउजेंड्स ऑफ फार्मर्स हु आर सप्लाइंग एग्स टू हिम. अब उसमें से किसी एक फार्मर के फार्म पर कुछ गड़बड़ थी, उसके एग्स अगर खराब निकले, कोई बीमारी होगी उसकी वजह से, सो यू मस्ट बी एबल टू ट्रेस बैक दैट फार्मर कि किसके बॉक्स से ये एग आया. दैट इज ट्रेसेबिलिटी. ठीक है. अब इंडिया के अंदर में दिस इज डिफिकल्ट बिकॉज़ यू रिक्वायर अ लॉट मोर सोफिस्टिकेटेड टेक्नोलॉजी फॉर एंश्योरिंग दैट ट्रेसेबिलिटी. अब इससे क्या हुआ, इससे हमारे यहाँ पर भले से प्रोड्यूस अच्छा है, सस्ता है, क्वालिटी है, लेकिन ये परफॉर्मेंस स्टैंडर्ड जो है हम मीट नहीं कर पाते और इसलिए इंडियन प्रोडक्ट्स उनके मार्केट में जाकर के कंपीट नहीं कर सकते. सो बोलने को तो वो बताते हैं कि वी हैव रिड्यूस्ड आवर टैरिफ बैरियर्स, सो वी आर गिविंग यू open field to come and compete in our market, but they have increased other non-tariff barriers. So मैं कैसे करता हूँ? This is just one example, traceability का. ठीक है? Next, expansion of multinational corporations, MNCs. Multinational corporations, these are those corporations which are incorporated in some country, but they are functional across many different countries. They are doing business across the world, making profits and taking that back to their parent country, which most likely will be a tax haven. जैसे PepsiCo, for example. भारत में you have PepsiCo India, which is a subsidiary of the main company PepsiCo. PepsiCo जो मेन कंपनी है, वो मोस्ट लाइकली किसी टैक्स हेवन, केमैन आइलैंड हो गया, मॉरिशस हो गया, ऐसी किसी जगह पर में इनकॉर्पोरेट होगी. और वो PepsiCo क्या करती है, भारत में एक कंपनी बनाती है PepsiCo India, उसकी इंडियन सब्सिडियरी है. और वो उस इंडियन सब्सिडियरी से कहती है कि हमने तुमको राइट्स दिए हैं, फॉर्मूला दिया है, सारे आपको ब्रांडिंग वगैरह दे दी है, इसको यूज करके भारत में आप सॉफ्ट ड्रिंक्स बनाइए, चिप्स बनाइए और उसको बेचिए. जो भी प्रॉफिट आएगा उस पर वी आर गोइंग टू हैव सम फी ऑन दैट. ठीक है. सो भारत में जो PepsiCo बिजनेस कर रहा है, उसने मान लो 100 रुपए उसने प्रॉफिट कमा लिया. अब प्रॉफिट कहां से कमाया उसने? ऑब्वियसली भारत के लोगों के पैसे से कमाया. इस प्रॉफिट में से अ बिग चंक इज गोइंग टू गो टू द मदर कंपनी दैट इज PepsiCo India in the form of that license fee, क्योंकि it is allowing it to use its branding, name, symbol, so on and so forth, formula कैसे बनता है ड्रिंक, so on and so forth. अब इससे क्या हुआ है, तो दोनों एक ही एंटिटी अल्टीमेटली. अब भारत में प्रॉफिट में से ये सारा पैसा जब निकल गया तो उसका प्रॉफिट मार्जिन कम हो गया, अब उस पर वो टैक्स भरेगा. सो दे आर डूइंग बिजनेस इन इंडिया, पेइंग कॉन्शियसली लेस टैक्सेस थ्रू दीज मैकेनिज्म्स. So we see in globalization many such multinational corporations proliferating who are doing business in developing countries, earning profits over there, but not sharing as much in those countries for their development. Got this again? Okay. Business ज़्यादा कहाँ पर में है? Obviously in the third world, because population is obviously more over there. So this rise of this idea of MNC is another feature of globalization. Fourth, information technology or IT as the central pillar of globalization. All of these things that we have been talking about, they are inextricably linked to information technology. Doing business, traveling, trade in services or goods, all of these things ultimately are facilitated by information technology based systems. Just the IT companies अगर आप देखते हैं, Infosys ले लीजिए या और कोई भी top IT company आप ले लीजिए, see the number of people that are employed over there. You will see a few thousand people are actually employed, whereas their revenue is so massive, and that is why they are able to afford such high level of salaries. On an average, entry level के ऊपर में मतलब 2-3 years experience के बाद में, you can expect a salary of 80,000 to 1 lakh in IT sector. As you advance, 5 to 7 lakhs is not uncommon in IT sectors. अगर आप 10-15 years तक आपके पास experience. And furthermore, they give so many facilities. Google के ऑफिस में अगर आप चले जाएंगे, and this is reality, Bangalore का Google का ऑफिस है, you can walk into that office wearing just a Bermuda t-shirt. I think you don't have to follow those, typical corporate norms. There will be a PlayStation installed. काम करते करते आपको बोर हो गया, PlayStation installed है, जाकर के आप गेम्स खेल सकते हैं. वहीं पर में एक योगा कोच भी आता है, सुबह में 2 टाइम, शाम में 2 टाइम. You can join any of the batch, do yoga over there itself. जिम भी है, स्विमिंग पूल भी है, पूरा पेंट्री लगा हुआ है. Everything that you can, ever wish to have for breakfast or brunch is available for free. All of this is made available. How is it possible? उतना सेम रेवेन्यू जनरेट करने के लिए मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कंपनी को it will require 10 times the number of people that a IT company employs. Okay? Why is it possible? Because IT is so central, it is so important for all the processes that are involved in globalization. So it is like that horizontal which intersects all the verticals of today's economy. Getting this point? So without IT, we could never have imagined globalization to be where it is today. Next, free flow of international capital. I think this is self-explanatory and we have already touched upon this in features. Ever expanding scope. Globalization never remains limited only to economy. It impacts culture. The tattered jeans that we wear, or the McAloo tikki that we want to have in McDonald's, all of this is that cultural influence of globalization. Social aspects. You see how the social practices are changing. I told you perhaps in some other class. In USA, parents themselves kick out their children once they are close to 18. वो छोड़ के जाना तो बात की बात है. Parents themselves say, I have a life of my own. तुमसे जेवढं करायचं होतं तेवढं केलेलं आहे. Now fend for yourself. They have to work and support their education and look after their life. Parents will once in a year meet them on Christmas maybe. That's all. Okay? Now, are we seeing similar social trends also develop here in India? Are we seeing the problems of a lot of old age homes coming up in India? You all agree with this? I read a story and this is a real one. I'm just sharing it because it's a social reality. It will make you understand how things are shaping up. There was a boy, single, child, educated by parents who was sent to abroad for the masters over there, got a good job, was married, local girl से शादी वगैरह हो गई, वो वहाँ पर चला गया. But the parents को फिर communicate किया कि ऐसा करते हैं आप लोग बहुत, you're growing old, you come to UK, I will come and pick you up. But before that, we wind up all the properties that you have. So he comes back, he sells off all the properties, credits all that money to his own account, and tells the parent that we have a flight and we are going to go to UK. And he takes them to the airport. एयरपोर्ट पे ले जाने के बाहर में बिठाता है और कहता है कि मैं थोड़ा सा कुछ काम है, पासपोर्ट वगैरह जो भी बोला होगा मैं वो करके वापस आता हूँ, then we'll go inside. Parents were sitting over there waiting that their beloved son, only son, जिसके लिए इतना कुछ किया, वो वापस आएगा और उनको ले जाएगा. That that fellow, it's an open platform, otherwise I would have said it in a different way. He never came back. He left his parents having liquidated all their properties on the lurch on the airport. So society किस तरीके से change हो रही है, वो समाज जिसके अंदर में parents और ये सबका जो इतना importance था, आज वो चीज खत्म होती जा रही है. कितने सारे ये स्टोरीज जो है वो रियल स्टोरीज है, because I know somebody who works at a old age home. इतने सारे बच्चे ऐसे हैं जो वहां से ओल्ड एज होम के लोगों को कहते हैं, if their parents die, I have credited the amount for अंतिम संस्कार, please get it done, I cannot come over there. So आखिरी दर्शन के लिए भी वो आना नहीं चाहते थे. They just sent that amount. Okay, so this was a financial transaction. They took care of me. मैंने अपना पार्ट जो है वो खत्म कर दिया. That's the end of the story. We were not this old. Were we? We were not. ठीक है. But we are becoming that old. और धीरे धीरे ना ये चीज नॉर्मलाइज होती चली जाती है. आज फिर भी इस चीज का हमको शॉक लग रहा है एटलीस्ट. ठीक है. मे बी वन जनरेशन डाउन द लाइन इस चीज का शॉक भी नहीं लगेगा क्योंकि वो उतना बड़ा नॉर्म बन चुका होगा. So social aspect also changes. This is why UPSC आर्क. सोसाइटी के अंदर में ग्लोबलाइजेशन क्यों पूछता है यूपीएससी? ठीक है, क्योंकि उसका इम्पैक्ट होता है सोसाइटी के ऊपर. थर्ड, political aspects. Political developments taking place in other parts of the world will have an impact on India. Donald Trump becomes the next president, or a diplomat continues, is going to have an impact on US का foreign policy, and naturally it is going to have an impact on India's influence, Republican or Democrat. I told you about how Shinzo Abe, he had immediately after Donald Trump's election, visited USA to remind USA of its commitment to, secure for Japan's security. Why is all that important? Because political developments, they are also increasingly part of globalization. Next, environmental aspects. This MNC culture, maximization of profit, this has led to a rampant exploitation of natural resources. You see the struggle that was waged in Orissa, by those tribals against Vedantaka mines, or struggle against Coca-Cola in Kerala, where pesticides was peeping in. Many of the stories can be cited across India. Multinational companies, they are interested only in their top line and bottom line. Have you heard of this? Top line means revenue, and bottom line means profits. Okay? They are keen only about these two lines. They are not concerned about what happens to the environment. So they have stripped bare Mother Earth in many cases. There's a beautiful case study of water wars that I have shared on my Telegram channel. I would want you to watch that particular video that I shared on my Telegram channel, and you'll understand how multinational corporations, they are using water, which is such a essential resource for mankind, for their own benefit at the cost of common people. अब ये सारी सिचुएशन में इंटरनेशनल इंस्टीट्यूशंस का जो रोल है वो बहुत ज्यादा क्रिटिकल है. ब्रेटन वुड्स इंस्टीट्यूशंस लाइक वर्ल्ड बैंक एंड IMF, they in a way compel countries to become more and more open towards globalization. India's story is the classic example of that. We went through a bad financial crisis towards early 90s, where we required financial help from international institutions. So we had to knock the doors of IMF. World Bank क्या करता है? World Bank gives loans for developmental purposes, and IMF gives loans to basically make your financial position sound. उसके अंदर में कुछ हम क्रिएट नहीं कर रहे हैं एसेट, लेकिन आपकी फाइनेंशियल सिचुएशन इंप्रूव कर रहे हैं. सो ये लोग क्या करते हैं? दे डोंट गिव यू लोन्स टू हेल्प यू आउट. दे हैव देयर ओन एजेंडा. इट्स कॉल्ड एज द स्ट्रक्चरल एडजस्टमेंट प्रोग्राम, SAP. If you want to take loans from IMF, then you have to subscribe to their structural adjustment program, SAP. What does that entail? It entails increasingly opening up of your economy for investment, for trade, for technology transfer. वो जो सारी चीजें हमने देखी ग्लोबलाइजेशन में, वो सारी चीजें आपको करनी होगी, फॉरेन कंपटीशन को अलाउ करना होगा, एमएनसीज को अंदर आने देना होगा। ये सारी चीजें अगर आप करेंगे तभी आपको आईएमएफ से लोन मिलेगा। टेक द केस में पाकिस्तान इज आल्सो गोइंग थ्रू दैट सिमिलर फेज। श्रीलंका को पैसा नहीं मिल रहा था बिकॉज श्रीलंका वाज रिलक्टेंट टू चेंज इट्स स्ट्रक्चर्स। ठीक है, इंडिया यूज्ड इट्स क्लाउड टू हेल्प श्रीलंका गेट दैट हेल्प फ्रॉम आईएमएफ। सो दीज इंटरनेशनल इंस्टीट्यूशंस अल्टीमेटली ये बाहर से तो फसाड बताते हैं कि वी आर फेयर, ट्रांसपेरेंट एंड वी आर इक्विटेबल, बट इन रियलिटी दे आर कंट्रोल्ड बाय द डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज ऑफ द वर्ल्ड and their agendas are implemented via these institutions. Okay? Countries are forced to adopt to globalization. बहुत सारा क्रिटिसिज्म हुआ है ऑन दिस स्ट्रक्चरल एडजस्टमेंट प्रोग्राम एसएपी, ठीक है, लेकिन वो आज भी उसी तरीके से कंट्रीज को फोर्स किया जाता है। सो दीज आर द फीचर्स ऑफ ग्लोबलाइजेशन। अंतिमतः एक अच्छा प्यारा सेंटेंस है जिसमें हम ग्लोबलाइजेशन को समराइज कर सकते हैं। इट ऑल डील्स विद श्रिंकिंग स्पेस। ग्लोबल विलेज एक कैसे हम यूज करते हैं, ग्लोबल विलेज। सो व्हाट इज दैट? दैट स्पेस हैज shrunk. It does not matter today whether you are living in Mangaon, Manipur or Manhattan. You are just one click away from the person you want to connect with. It does not matter. So it is that shrinking of space. Also, travel and transport has become much more easier. Shrinking of time and disappearing of borders. Okay? This is in essence the idea of globalization. ये ऐसे कैच फ्रेजेस जिसको हम पंच लाइन भी कह सकते हैं, ये पंच लाइन्स आपको कॉन्शियसली करेक्ट करना है। हिंदी में एक मुहावरा है, बूंद बूंद से घट भरता है। एक एक ड्रॉप मिला करके एक पूरा घड़ा जो है वो भरा जाता है। तो ये जो कोट्स होती है ना, ये एक एक यहाँ वहां आपको स्कैटर्ड मिलेगी, उसको आपको एक जगह लाना है और फिर उसको आंसर्स और ऐसे में आपको यूज करना है सो दैट इट क्रिएट्स दैट इंपैक्ट। ठीक है, वी टेक अ शॉर्ट ब्रेक ओवर हियर 15 मिनट्स एंड देन वी कंटिन्यू। And we have seen what are the features of globalization. Now let us quickly see what are the factors that are responsible for globalization. Now based on the foregone discussion, most of the stuff has already been touched upon in some way or the other. Okay? So the points under factors will be self-explanatory in most cases. Okay? So we'll quickly touch upon them and go ahead. Factors responsible for globalization. What factors lead or have led to globalization? First and most obvious one amongst these are the policies related to liberalization. Like in case of India, we have liberalized our economy post 1991. The trend, by the way, was already there. In the mid-80s, से early 80s कहना चाहिए, Mrs. Gandhi had already started upon that trend. Rajiv Gandhi continued that in the subsequent government. But that financial shock of 1991 compelled us or forced us to liberalize our economy in a big way. So liberalization में हमने क्या किया है? We have integrated our economy with the world economy. Slowly, steadily, we have allowed more and more foreign investment, more and more foreign competition to come in. Okay? We have reduced the barriers, direct barriers that we had on import. Why did all of this happen? It happened because of the conscious policies of liberalization that we have implemented. Now let me take you back to that basic concept of liberalization. Liberalism at the core. What does liberalism deal with? Individuals' right as an idea. When we extend that to economy, politically तो individual rights, freedom of speech, expression, सब कुछ उसमें आ गया। जब हम इकोनॉमी में उसको एक्सटेंड करते हैं तो क्या मिलता है हमको? We get कैपिटलिज्म, फ्री मार्केट वाला इकोनॉमी, वो उसी का दूसरा साइड है। उस लिबरलाइजेशन को या उस लिबरलिज्म को अगर हम और एक्सटेंड करते हैं तो वो आज की डेट में ग्लोबलाइजेशन बन जाता है। सेम आइडिया, सेम प्रिंसिपल अप्लाइड यूनिफॉर्मली अक्रॉस द वर्ल्ड। ओके, दैट लीड्स टू ग्लोबलाइजेशन। कोई इंसान कहीं भी पैदा हुआ है, उसको अधिकार है कि वो कहीं भी मूव कर सकता है, कोई भी जॉब कर सकता है, किसी भी टाइप का बिजनेस सेटअप कर सकता है। ये सारे का गढ़ कहां से आ रहा है? तो उसी लिबरलिज्म के आइडिया से आ रहा है। गट पॉइंट, ठीक है। लेकिन अब इंटरनली तो ये चीज सेट थी, कंट्रीज वर कैपिटलिस्ट, सो लिबरलिज्म को उन्होंने इकोनॉमिकली स्पीकिंग कैपिटलिज्म फ्री मार्केट में इंप्लीमेंट किया, ठीक है। नेशन स्टेट्स में हम बटे हुए हैं, डिवाइडेड हैं, लेकिन बियॉन्ड नेशनल बाउंड्री से इसको एक्सटेंड करना होगा, तो वी नीड डिफरेंट काइंड ऑफ अप्रोच। दैट अप्रोच और दोस पॉलिसीज आर कॉल्ड एज पॉलिसीज ऑफ लिबरलाइजेशन। समझ में आता है? ये लिंक समझ आ रहा है हर एक? Is there anybody who has not understood this? Yes, no, answer. Everybody? Okay. Second thing that is responsible for globalization is technological revolution. If we want globalization, then we need free flow of four things we saw. What were those four things? Trade, capital, people, technology. So at the core, at the base, आपको technological revolutions चाहिए जो इन चीजों को facilitate करें, आसान बना सके. Earlier, the movement of people, when Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar, he went to UK to study. So he had to go to Bombay, board a steamer, then he goes into Suez Canal. वहां पर मेडिटेरेनियन सी में दूसरा स्टीमर लेंगे, वहां से फ्रांस जाएंगे, फ्रांस में उतरेंगे मार्सेल्स में, वहां से फिर ओवरलैंड रूट क्रॉस करेंगे उस तरफ इंग्लिश चैनल तक, और फिर वहां से आप वापस अगेन सी रूट यूज करके आप ब्रिटेन तक जाएंगे, ठीक है। सो टेक्नोलॉजी उतनी एडवांस नहीं थी, आज आप मुंबई से डायरेक्ट न्यूयॉर्क की फ्लाइट ले सकते हैं, डायरेक्ट फ्लाइट, नो स्टॉप ओवर। 16 आवर्स के अंदर में आप जो है वो डायरेक्टली न्यूयॉर्क के अंदर में लैंड करें। मैं नागपुर से निकला था कल सुबह, 11 o'clock की मेरी ट्रेन थी। आज सुबह 4 बजे जो है मैं पुणे आकर के पहुंचा। उतने टाइम में कोई व्यक्ति जो उस प्लेन में बैठा है वो न्यूयॉर्क पहुंच सेम टाइम में, इनफैक्ट लेस। ठीक है, सो मूवमेंट ऑफ पीपल, टेक्नोलॉजी, ये सब अगर आप पॉइंट्स अगर आपको चाहिए होगा, सो यू नीड टेक्नोलॉजिकल रेवोल्यूशंस बिकॉज़ दैट। व्हाट आर बिग पॉइंट्स? इवन मोर एडवांस्ड, ठीक है, फैसिलिटेट इवन मोर इजी ट्रांजैक्शंस। सो ग्लोबलाइजेशन के लिए यू नीड दीज टेक्नोलॉजिकल रेवोल्यूशंस। सेल्फ एक्सप्लेनेटरी, एवरीबॉडी अंडरस्टैंड्स दिस? सेकंड, थर्ड एंड वेरी क्रूशियल इज data related costs. Globalization की economy is a knowledge driven economy. Please remember this word. Knowledge driven economy. ठीक है? और knowledge driven economy के अंदर में data का cost बहुत मैटर करता है। अगर data का cost cheap नहीं है, data क्या होता है? Basically any information is data. वो information को upload करना, maintain करना, download करना, transmit करना, ये चारों चीजें करते हैं हम लोग। So इसमें cost लगती है, आगे मसला लगती है। ठीक है, आज जो आप एक मूवी डाउनलोड करते हो नेटफ्लिक्स से, आप उसको ऑफलाइन भी देख सकते हो ना, बेसिकली आपके डिवाइस के ऊपर। सो 1 GB 2 GB जो भी रहता होगा, ठीक है, उतना डेटा जब डाउनलोड करना होता था, व्हेन इन्फोसिस वाज स्टार्टिंग इट्स कंपनी, लेट 90s की हम बात कर रहे हैं, तो उस वक्त में इट यूज्ड टू टेक डेज। पहले तो एक्सेस था ही नहीं, ओनली सिलेक्टिव हैड एक्सेस बिकॉज़ पॉसिबल था। और उतना 2-4 GB डाउनलोड करने के लिए इट यूज्ड टू टेक डेज एंड वीक्स फॉर दैट डाउनलोडिंग टू टेक प्लेस। गेटिंग दिस? उतना भी पीछे जाने की जरूरत नहीं। आज से 7-8 आज आप 2 GB डेटा हर कोई कंपनी दे रही है आपको। 300 रुपए का प्लान ले लो 299 का, और रोज का 2 GB डेटा आपको मिल रहा है। कतार का वर्ल्ड कप आप पूरा एंजॉय कर सकते हैं, कैसे नहीं कर सकते? ये 2 GB डेटा कितने में मिल रहा है आपको? 300 रुपए में मिल रहा है, कुछ कंपनी और कम में भी दे रही है। यही चीज आज से 7-8 साल पहले, अगर इतना डेटा आपको चाहिए, 2 GB एवरीडे मीन 60 GB, 60 GB का अगर आपको डेटा चाहिए होगा, तो आज से 7-8 साल पहले जो है आपको 3-3.5 हजार रुपए कम से कम उसके अंदर मिलते हैं। आई मीन मैंने पर्सनली यूज किया है, मैं अपने एक्सपीरियंस से, व्हेन आई वाज इन माय प्रिपरेशन प्रोसेस, तो मेरे पास वो प्रीपेड एक डोंगल होता था, 60 GB, मतलब अपना एक मेंस का अटेम्प्ट जो है उसमें डेटा निकल जाता है। 30,000 रुपीस वाज माय इंटरनेट कॉस्ट फॉर दैट एक्सरसाइज। आज वही चीज आपको कितनी सस्ती मिली? फ्रैक्शन ऑफ दैट, लेस देन 1/10 ऑफ दैट अमाउंट। सो डेटा कॉस्ट, और ये जितना डेटा सस्ता होता जाएगा उतना ज्यादा इंफॉर्मेशन फ्लो इंक्रीज होगा, उतना ज्यादा इंटरडिपेंडेंस बढ़ेगा। Let this point. Next, new forms of industrial organizations have emerged. New forms of industrial organization. 20 years ago, the topmost companies on Nasdaq, Dow Jones, international जितने भी स्टॉक मार्केट्स हैं, वहाँ पे जो सबसे टॉप कंपनीज होती थी, वो मैन्युफैक्चरिंग की कंपनीज थी। ये लोग कोई चीज बनाते थे फिजिकली। आज कौन टॉप कर रहे हैं? You have GAFAM. Have you heard of this? GAFAM, Google, Apple, Facebook, Amazon, Microsoft. These 5 tech companies together are called as GAFAM. याद रखना, ये फ्रेज स्टैंडर्ड फ्रेज है। GAFAM टॉप करते हैं। अब इनका स्ट्रक्चर देख लीजिए, they are very different from your conventional organizations, employing hardly few thousand people. Most of the work is done by the supercomputers that they have. और इसमें से बहुत सारे सुपर कंप्यूटर्स जो है अभी आगे की डेवलपमेंट आपको बताऊं। Everything is information based. Now to make this system more efficient, they are going to have underwater supercomputers. That is going to tremendously further reduce the cost. Amazon पे जब आप सर्च करते हैं बिलियन डे सेल क्या होता है वो कुछ, ठीक है, हाँ, तो उस दिन पे कितने भारत के हजारों लाखों लोग एक वक्त एक चीज सर्च कर रहे हैं। अब उसने उसको ऑर्डर करना है, प्लेस करना है अपना ऑर्डर, मनी वहां पर में जाएगा, आपके एड्रेस पे वो चीज डिस्पैच होगी। ये सारी चीजें स्प्लिट सेकंड्स में करनी है। इट रिक्वायर्स अ वेरी हाई लेवल ऑफ कंप्यूटिंग पावर। अब वो उसका भी जो कॉस्ट था, दैट इज गोइंग टू कम डाउन ट्रेमेंडसली बिकॉज़ ऑफ दिस अंडरवाटर बेस्ड सुपर कंप्यूटर। आई डोंट नो द टेक्निकलिटीज ऑफ हाउ इट इज गोइंग टू मेक अ बिग डिफरेंस, बट व्हाट आई हैव रेड इज एप्लीकेशन वाइज इट इज गोइंग टू ब्रिंग अबाउट अ मेजर कॉस्ट रिडक्शन फॉर दीस कंपनीज। गेटिंग दिस पॉइंट? सो दिस इज very new type of organizations that we are seeing now, unlike the conventional organizations. That is, next, new management technology. You see, over the recent decades, so many new different techniques of management have come about. The Toyota way, Kanban, Kaizen, Six Sigma. What are all these? These are all management technologies. You hear a lot about ERP softwares. ERP softwares क्या होते हैं? कंपनी में जो इतने हजारों लोग काम कर रहे हैं, इनका सारा इंफॉर्मेशन एक जगह पर में कोलेक्ट करके, प्रोसेस करके वो रेडी रखना फॉर एक्शनेबल बेसिस। There are so many employees. Which employee is doing well? किसको employee of the month का award देना है? किसको employee of the year का award देना है? किसके targets कितने थे? किसने कैसे achieve किया है? ये सारों के लिए आपको physical systems required नहीं। On the click of a button, you get all of this information ready. These are ERP based softwares. ठीक है? So all this is new management tech that has come about. भारत में तो इस चीज का हमारे पास में बैकग्राउंड था ही नहीं। जब हमने लिबरलाइज किया इकोनॉमी को, ये फॉरेन कंपनीज हमारे यहाँ पर आकर के काम करने लगी, तो वो टेक्नोलॉजी जो है वो भारत में भी यूज होने लगी। ठीक है? सो ये क्रॉस फर्टिलाइजेशन ऑफ आइडियाज, ये भी ग्लोबलाइजेशन की वजह से होता है। नेक्स्ट, फेलियर ऑफ USSR. Till USSR was there was no question of a globalized world. Why? Because the world was divided into 2 camps. और सारा स्ट्रगल तो उसी का था कि डिवीजन रही है और दोनों साइड्स कंपीट करती रहे कि कौन बेहतर सिस्टम लेकर के आया है, इसमें कितना है दम। ये 50 साल की हिस्ट्री यही कहती है ना कोल्ड वॉर की। यूएसएसआर का जो डिसइंटीग्रेशन है, दैट इज द फर्स्ट स्टेप टुवर्ड्स ग्लोबलाइजेशन इन दैट सेंस, विदाउट व्हिच ग्लोबलाइजेशन वुड नेवर हैव टेकन प्लेस। US's role as a sole superpower. Globalization served America's interest. ग्लोबलाइजेशन की वजह से देखिए अमेरिकन कंपनीज का डोमिनेशन है पूरी दुनिया में। ये गैफाम ऐसी जो कंपनीज है, कहाँ की कंपनीज? यूएस बेस्ड कंपनीज है। एप्पल कहाँ बना है? यूएस बेस्ड ही है ना, ठीक है। सो नेचुरली यूएस कंपनीज का डोमिनेशन मींस यूएस का डोमिनेशन ऑन इंटरनेशनल इकोनॉमी। जितना ज्यादा ओपनिंग अप ऑफ इकोनॉमी होगा उतना ज्यादा किसको फायदा होगा? यूएसए को फायदा होगा। यूएसए ऑलवेज हैड covetous eyes on the resource rich parts of the world, but कोल्ड वॉर के चलते थर्ड वर्ल्ड could hedge its bets। थोड़ा सा इस तरफ झुकी कभी यूएसएसआर की तरफ, ठीक है, डिपेंडिंग ऑन द सिचुएशन, कभी थोड़ा वहां फ्लेक्सिबल हो गए, ये करके अपनी सॉवरेनिटी मेंटेन कर सकते हैं। लेकिन जब सिंगल यानी सोल सुपर पावर वाले फेज में हम आ जाते हैं तो उसके बाद में यूएस का डोमिनेशन जो है कंप्लीट है। भारत जैसे देश को भी उगो क्या सूर्यला नमस्कार मराठी में बोलूं, यू हैव टू सैल्यूट द राइजिंग सन। रशिया को भूल करके हमको भी यूएस की प्रॉक्सिमिटी लेनी पड़ी ना, ठीक है। सो यूएस का रोल एज अ सोल सुपर पावर इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट इन दिस प्रोसेस। अब वो जरूरत नहीं ना रॉबर्ट क्लाइव को भेजने के लिए, ठीक है, कि कहीं जाकर के आप मारपीट करके अपना डोमिनेशन एस्टैब्लिश करो, ना वो आर्मी की जरूरत है ना आपकी फिजिकल प्रेजेंस की जरूरत है। वही चीज बहुत एफिशिएंटली आपकी मल्टीनेशनल कॉर्पोरेशन कर सकती है। सो यूएस इज रोल। नेक्स्ट, रोल ऑफ इंटरनेशनल इंस्टीट्यूशंस, वी हैव जस्ट डिस्कस्ड दिस इन द लास्ट वीक, हाउ वर्ल्ड बैंक, आईएमएफ, डब्ल्यूटीओ, ऑल ऑफ these play a game which ostensibly is a level playing field, but when you have a closer look at it, it is clearly tilted in favor of the developed west। बस समझ रहे हैं आप? डब्ल्यूटीओ क्या कहता है? फ्री ट्रेड होना चाहिए, फ्री ट्रेड होना चाहिए। और भारत से कहता है, अब ये इंपॉर्टेंट इशू है, थोड़ा सा मैं टच करके जा रहा हूं। भारत से कहता है देखो हम ये चाहते हैं कि तुम्हारा एग्रीकल्चर प्रोडक्ट और यूएसए का एग्रीकल्चर प्रोडक्ट, इसके बीच में फ्री और इक्वल कंपटीशन होनी चाहिए, इक्वल स्पॉट होनी चाहिए। लेकिन तुम लोग इक्वल कंपटीशन नहीं करते। कौन? इंडिया। कैसे नहीं करते हो? तुम एमएसपी प्रोवाइड करते हो, मिनिमम सपोर्ट प्राइस, फिर तुम्हारी सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट जो है वो प्रोक्योरमेंट भी करती है, तुम पीडीएस भी चलाते हो। इस सब की वजह से क्या होता है कि तुम्हारे किसान को ताकत मिलती है और इस वजह से उसको अनफेयर एडवांटेज मिलता है एज कंपेयर टू यूएस का फार्मर। यूएस की गवर्नमेंट इस तरीके से डायरेक्टली इंटरवीन नहीं करती। सो दिस गोज अगेंस्ट द प्रिंसिपल ऑफ फ्री ट्रेड। ये डब्ल्यूटीओ हमसे प्रेशराइज करते हैं हमको कि नो, यू शुड गिव अप दीस सब्सिडीज। दे आर क्लासिफाइड सब्सिडीज इनटू बॉक्सेस, ग्रीन बॉक्स, एम्बर बॉक्स, ब्लू बॉक्स। अब मैं उसके टर्म्स में नहीं जाना चाहता हूं, आपकी इकोनॉमी में कवर होगा। लॉन्ग स्टोरी शॉर्ट क्या है? दे वांट अस टू गिव अप दिस सपोर्ट, ओके। एंड व्हाट इज आवर स्टैंड? ये देखिए, आप ये जो खेल खेलते हो ना, दिस इज ऑल फेवरिंग द डेवलप्ड वेस्ट। Yes, USA might not be paying to its farmer in the form of MSP or direct procurement, but USA के अंदर में पावर जो है वो बहुत सस्ता है। USA के अंदर में फार्म इंप्लीमेंट्स बहुत एडवांस्ड है, मैकेनाइजेशन बहुत हाई लेवल के ऊपर में है, एग्रीकल्चर एजुकेशन जो है वो बहुत ज्यादा एडवांस्ड है। स्टेट की वहां पर में बड़ी-बड़ी यूनिवर्सिटीज है जो इंडायरेक्टली सपोर्ट प्रोवाइड करती है, ठीक है। सो दैट्स व्हाई आवर फार्मर कैन नेवर इवन इमेजिन टू compete with yours। हमारे फार्मर की हालत क्या है? 0.67 हेक्टर्स, ये तो हमारा एवरेज लैंड साइज 0.67 हेक्टर्स। लिख लीजिए इस चीज को, ये सारे डेटा पॉइंट जो ना आपको काम आएंगे। 85% of India's farmers, 85%, 85% of India's farmers are in small and marginal farmer category. Small and marginal farmers. 48% of India's population, as much as 48% of India's population is directly or indirectly dependent on agriculture. 48%. 45% close to our area, 45% of our area is unirrigated, मतलब वो मानसून डिपेंडेंट, मानसून डिपेंडेंसी। अब ऐसे फार्मर को अगर हम एश्योरिटी भी ना दें कि जो तुम गेहूं लगा रहे हो, चावल लगा रहे हो, ये बाजार में जो प्राइस मिलेगा उतने पे तुमको बेचना पड़ेगा, तुम्हारा जो हो स्टेट इज नॉट कंसर्न्ड विद दैट। Will that farmer will he ever be able to sow his fields? No. It is that assurity that the state gives, because of which the farmer is encouraged. Okay? Our food security depends on this. MSP and then other mechanisms that government has. Because of that, we are able to maintain food security. You know that we have passed an act called as National Food Security Act. Under this, we have guaranteed certain level of grains to 67% of our population. Okay? Why? Because we are a country which still is quite poor in many parts of India. Unless we provide this nutritional security, we cannot ensure the development of the country. और वहीं पर हमको WTO क्या बोलता है? That you should give up on all of these measures. That will lead to free and fair competition. Okay? So this is the kind of pressure that many international institutions exercise. We've had to use our full diplomatic weight in WTO. ठीक है? और वो weight use करके हमने waiver हासिल किया है to continue our subsidy programs. And it has come after a lot of effort. ठीक है? इतना pressure जो है हमको झेलना पड़ा है under WTO. तो सांघाईचा मुद्दा क्या है? What I want to emphasize over here is international institutions in this manner forcefully have made countries to globalize. Got the idea? हे काही सगळं स्वेच्छेने झालेलं आहे अशातलाही भाग नाही. So ये तो हो गया why globalization has taken place. Now let us see its impact, positive and negative impact. So first we are seeing the positive impact of globalization. First part of it is poverty reduction in poorer countries. Again here we don't have to look any further than our own country. Last 20 years का जो भारत का story है, the India story as we call it. is about lifting out a lot of people from poverty. We were a country until recently which was producing millionaires at the fastest rate in the world. दुनिया में सबसे ज़्यादा तेज rate से millionaires कहीं बन रहे थे तो वो भारत में. Today we know that Indians are there in the uber rich list of the world, including Mr. Adani, who's topping the list. Now, there's a lot of bubble over there, वो सारी चीजें अपनी जगह अलग है. But we have definitely been able to produce a lot of wealth. There's no doubt in that. Same is the case with China. Deng Xiaoping के जमाने में when he takes over, उस वक्त में ये कहा जाता था. थॉमस फ्रीडमैन की स्टोरी मैंने बताई आपको. The world is black वाली किताब. नहीं बताई. Thomas Friedman is a journalist who has written a book. नाम लिख लीजिएगा इसको. Thomas Friedman. He's written a book. The world is flat. The world is flat. Thomas Friedman. Friedman. Thomas Friedman. The world is flat. ये बुक जो है वो ग्लोबलाइजेशन की कंटेक्स्ट में ही लिखा हुआ है. So ये थॉमस फ्रीडमैन जो इंटरनेशनली सेलिब्रेटेड राइटर है, जर्नलिस्ट है, वो क्या कहते हैं? He says that when I was in school, my parents used to scare me. मेरे पेरेंट्स जो है मुझे डराते थे. क्या कह करके? खाना खा लो क्योंकि भारत और चाइना में लोग भूखे मर रहे हैं. पेरेंट्स करते हैं ना किसी चीज. So my parents used to tell me. और मैं आज अपने बच्चों को डराता हूँ, telling them study well because students in India and China are hungry for your jobs. This is that transformation. This is that lifting out of people. थॉमस फ्रीडमैन, इनका नाम याद रखना. क्यों हुआ है ये? लोग क्यों बाहर निकले पॉवर्टी से? Because many new opportunities were created. Take the case of middle class Indians. Most of the middle class who are now upper middle class or middle class, one generation ago, they were all there in lower middle class category. Okay? It was all about that stretch to somehow survive this month and wait for the next month's salary. You ask your parents, they'll tell you about their generation. It was constantly that struggle to survive that 1 month. We were living 1 month to 1 month. Now children of those same parents, they are earning salaries in 6 digits, some maybe in 7 digits also. And husband and wife both are working. So monthly income family की 4 लाख 5 लाख इस लेवल पे जा चुकी है. ये क्यों हो पाया? Because they invested in education and parallelly globalization created opportunity for that education. सिर्फ education लेने से बात नहीं बनती थी. That education also had to create that opportunity. IT sector and many others that have come up in India. Pharma और भी बहुत सारे sectors हैं. IT is the most prominent one of course. It gave that opportunity to young Indians, which lifted them out of poverty. You all I think will agree with this. Third, globalization has made easy availability of capital. We saw one of the 4 important flows in globalization is about capital. So this funding or this money is available for businesses. You see the performance of India's stock markets. You know when Harshad Mehta scam had taken place. If you know somebody who used to invest at that point of time during Harshad Mehta scam, so people have told me that ऐसा माहौल था कि अब इंडिया में स्टॉक मार्केट कभी वापस हो ही नहीं सकता. इस लेवल पे पेसिमिज्म जो है वो हो चुका है. वहां से लेकर के आज आप देखिए कि हमारा सेंसेक्स और निफ्टी जो है वो कितने ऊंचाइयों तक पहुंचा है. इट इज गोइंग ओनली स्ट्रॉन्गर. Is it only Indian money that is, powering this? Certainly not. It is a lot of foreign capital that has come into it. India, खास तौर पे 2004 to 2008-9, these were the most booming years of India. We were recording, 8%, 9% वाला economic growth rate. Those were really awesome years for Indian economy. That is the time when a lot of this foreign investment flew into India, both direct investment as well as institutional investment. And that money that comes in, it creates easy capital also. Okay? A lot of, Indian startups. Take the case of Byju's. Okay? Take the case of Physics Wala. Many of these Indian big stories, they have been funded by foreigners. Byju's या Unacademy इसको फंड करने के अंदर में Alibaba का बहुत बड़ा रोल पता है. Chinese company which is funding Indian startups. ठीक है. So why is this again possible? Because of globalization, free flow of funds, spread of technology, professional skills, and managerial competence. Okay? We Indians have a very smart human resource. Other countries have technology, some have capital. Okay. Now each one is limited because of lack of one of these. But because of globalization, allowing free flow of all of this, we can have the best of all. So we have, say, US का technology, Japan का capital, और India का human resource. It's not a far-fetched thing. GE, General Electric, ये जो कंपनी है, US कंपनी है, लेकिन इसकी मदर कंपनी जापानीज है. जापानीज ने खरीदा उसको. और यहाँ पर मैं बड़ी-बड़ी पोस्ट पे काम करने वाले इंडियंस हैं. इसलिए combination of all of these. GE is a legendary US company, right? Electric और बहुत सारे और technology intensive areas में काम करती है. Combination of all of these three. India, which did not have the latest management, know-how, expertise, technology, ये सारी चीजें हमको मिली. जापान ने बहुत कुछ दिया था दुनिया को, काइजन, कानबान, जस्ट इन टाइम. हम ज्यादा कुछ दे नहीं पाए. हमने दिया था NIT, उनके JIT के साथ, नेवर इन टाइम, जस्ट इन टाइम के सामने. So now we got access to their technology management systems. Diffusion of knowledge. Knowledge is the big divide, guys. It is that catapult. If you have that, knowledge which is required for today's ecosystem, then you can get a big, jump in terms of your career. I know somebody who's working in tech industry at a very high position, who has actually studied only Bachelor's of Commerce. Real person मेरे लाइफ से मैंने जो देखा हुआ एग्जाम्पल वो बताऊँ. बीकॉम पढ़ा हुआ बंदा है, and he is working in a tech company on a very good post. Nobody even bothers to ask him what his graduation is. Why? Because he had invested his time, energy, effort into developing the technology-related skills. and then on-job training and experience and his partnership. Okay? All of that so potently combined together that he is heading teams of engineers who have studied from premier colleges. Why is that so? Because that access to knowledge, the diffusion of knowledge. I don't know how many of you are there on different learning platforms. Like there's one platform called as udemy.com. How many of you have done courses or done some kind of learning over there? Okay, 5 to 7 of you. There's a very good course on udemy.com, free course. I want all of you to go through it. It's just like 1 hour. You do it over the weekend. Udemy.com पे जाना है and search for one Mr. Shani Raja, S-H-A-N-I-R-A-J, Shani Raja. He has a free course called as Secret Sauce of Effective Writing. Secret Sauce of Effective Writing. You all are going to write essays, a lot of answers. So what are the basic principles to write effectively? That he has explained very nicely in that short course. So these kind of platforms, udemy.com, which has several thousand courses. Uska founder जो है वो Indian है. An Indian is the founder, co-founder actually. An Indian has done that. So these kind of platforms in globalization times have removed that barrier of knowledge. अगर आपके अंदर में इच्छा है तो 350-500 रुपए के कोर्सेज के अंदर में भी आप अपने आप को अपस्किल कर सकते हैं. ठीक है? And that can give you a big boost in terms of your career. Okay? कितनी सारी तो वहां पर you will see a lot of homemakers who are part-time educators on these platforms. They are spreading knowledge and also they are economically improving themselves. This is all